and gentlemen, let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the
2nd and 12. Rodgers under pressure, throws one-handed, caught. Wilson, touchdown. Extra pressure, going deep, has his man, has Adams, touchdown.
All right, a Friday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels, Jack Johnson. Heading up until 2 o'clock. Boy, we got a packed show today on a Friday because the Chiefs are having a Thursday today while the rest of the world has a Friday. So they have a busy press conference for you. Usually it's a Fast Friday with Andy Reid, just a couple of minutes where we hear from Andy Reid. But today we will hear from Dave Tobe, Steve Spagnuolo, Matt Nagy, Chris Jones. We'll see who else is going to be at the podium today. That'll come our way at 11:45, not at 1 o'clock with a Fast Friday with Andy Reid. That means we have an abbreviated conversation with Matt Derrick. Coming up in the 11 o'clock hour, it means we push back our conversation with Kendall Gammon into the about noon 30 or so. We'll talk with him about this Chiefs game on Monday night. Mick Schaefer will join us in the 1 o'clock hour. We will play Sad Fans Raiders edition.
Ooh.
We'll see who is lighting it up today, and we'll give our predictions on who wins the Gold Glove on Sunday. Which Royals players, if any.
Oh, yeah, I forgot I have a bet with Lebo.
You do have a bet with
10
Lebo.
10-1 on coffees.
10-1 coffees. What's the bet? What's the bet,
Jack?
Jack? Here's the bet.
Here's the bet. Tell me I'm on the good side here.
Just tell him. It doesn't even matter what the bet is. He apparently wants you to just tell him he's on the good side.
Correct.
He's Glenn to the good.
We'll see. We'll see.
So, Freddie Fermin wins a Gold Glove for the Royals. If Freddie Fermin does win a Gold Glove, Todd Lebo has to buy me 10 coffees. If Freddie Fermin doesn't win a Gold Glove, I owe Lebo 1 coffee. 10-1 odds on Freddie Fermin, who is a finalist, seems like a pretty damn good bet for me.
I think, it is a lose situation for you because you technically can lose, but it's 1 coffee, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You got the long shot odds here. You're going for the underdog because Freddie Fermin's not an everyday catcher, but he is a finalist. So I don't hate the bet. That's 10 cups of coffee for him that he's got to give to you throughout, 2 weeks?
So it's 10-1 based on a 33% chance of it happening.
That's my point. Like that's a good bet.
You're on the right side of that.
The odds are in your favor.
That's a good bet.
I needed to practice that a little bit. Needed to wet the whistle a little bit there.
Wet that whistle.
You didn't have to celebrate it, man. I was just Jack Johnson hanging out with us here, as you heard that. Lee Sterling, we'll hear from him coming up later on this hour with Todd Lebo. We'll talk about the Houston Texans losing last night, just as we all predicted. Joked about, Texans are clearly going to win tonight.
Vegas knew something clearly because every normal
Vegas knows something until they don't. I love that. It's like PFF. PFF is just like one data point. Boy, PFF said there's something really good about our team, our players, so I'm going to use that. Vegas knows something. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they give away money. BYU
last night. Yeah, BYU one was
at
a giveaway.
UCF.
Yeah, that was free money.
Getting 2.5 points was just giving away money.
But that felt like that last night. And
Noah Gray 2 weeks ago, 25 yards or more, was just giving away money.
And then I saw the Texans left guard play football, and I thought, attempted to play football. Attempted to maybe
Texans,
play a sport.
I love Cynthia Freeland's line on Wednesday about the Texans' offensive line, that she said they are, quote, decidedly ungood.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite lines that we will use moving forward. The Texans' offensive line, anybody that watched the game last night, there was a perfect synopsis of what this season has been for the Texans and the offensive line. It's when the pressure came from the right side, the left side, and also the middle, and C.J. Stroud tried to step up, and his right tackle hit him and jarred the ball free for a fumble that the Jets recovered. That is the perfect play to describe what this season has been for the Texans' offensive line. It is not only they're hurting their team, but they are hurting them to a degree that it caused a turnover. They themselves, now I know that they were walked back into C.J. Stroud, but still, C.J. Stroud hits his offensive lineman with the ball, and the ball falls free. So we'll talk Texans here in just a little bit.
It was legitimately the Chiefs' offensive line in the Super Bowl against Buccaneers bad.
That's what the Texans look like. And they've got Laramie Tunsil at left tackle, too.
Yeah.
Like,
so
that's just so bad.
How bad did the other four have to be?
It's just so bad. 9 years ago today, guys. 9 years ago today, you know what that was. 9 years ago on November 1st. Can you guys tell me what happened 9 years ago today on November 1st?
13 years ago, Andy Studebaker.
Nope.
No, that was 13 in one day.
Yep, 13-1. 9 years ago on this day, November 1st, 2015. What do we think happened?
The Royals won the World Series.
Damn it, Bethany, he guessed it. You're wrong, actually. 9 years ago today, on November 1st, the Chiefs and Lions played at Wembley, and the Chiefs won 45-10. Right now, you know what? 9 years ago today, right now, I believe they were probably starting the third quarter. That game started at 8:36 in the morning.
Did
So
the Royals also not win the World Series today?
they did. I'm just being a smartass.
Oh, okay.
I'm being a dumbass, okay? All right, I'm being a jackass. All right, can we think of any other asses to be? I'm just being
Well,
an ass.
You said jackass.
But he's not, though. His
Using
middle name
my
is not
name in
ass.
vain.
That's right. No, of course, the Royals won the World Series 9 years ago today, and they got it done on November 1st. And we all were watching at this time 9 years ago today, the Chiefs and Lions, just to pass the time because we were staring at the clock until Game 5 started that night. Right? I mean, that's exactly what we were doing. I was an hour ahead at the time, but I'm just like, I don't care about this game at all. The Chiefs are 2-5. I don't care about this game. Can we just simply get to tonight? Royals can win the World Series tonight, and if they don't, they get to come back home for Game 6 and have two chances to win the World Series in Kauffman. Oh, my God, man, what a position this Royals team is in. This is unbelievable. And, of course, they go and get it done that night and 9 years ago. Quick, Jack, first memory. What pops in your head right now?
Oh, the Mad Dash.
Mad Dash pops in your head right now. Well, he said Mad Dash, so maybe that, but I say 2015 World Series. Go.
Matt Harvey blowing it.
2015 World Series. Doesn't have to be that night. Just first thing that pops in your head.
Lorenzo
image.
Cain's like celebration because he was such a reserved guy when we knew he
Yeah.
had clinched it in the extra innings.
Yeah.
Mine, I always go back to Drew Butera putting the ball in his back pocket for some reason. That's when you say
Yeah.
15 World Series, I think Butera running out to
Wade Davis.
to Wade Davis, and then
Running into the umpire.
yeah, right. I mean, that's for what all the things that happened in the 2015 World Series, a World Series. It's always the first thing that pops in my head. But Mad Dash, Lorenzo Cain, the Royals running in with their hands in the air, obviously.
Escobar's leadoff
Inside
into
the park.
That one
Gordon's
always
home
gets
run.
me chills.
Yeah,
but
Gordon's home run.
Gordon's home run is like the second thing that comes up for me.
But Butera is always, I think of that all the time because it makes me laugh that it's not Salvi. That it's
Right.
Drew Butera.
Yes.
When you look at like all the photos and all the pictures of Wade Davis and they're hugging, it's almost always the closer and the catcher.
How many times has a World Series MVP not finished the game on the field or in the lineup?
Oh, wow. Oh,
Because
well,
Bumgarner did as a pitcher.
did Kirk Gibson. Yeah, no, what about
Freddie?
position
That's what I'm
players?
saying. Like in the game still, like World Series MVP still in the game. Like Salvi, was taken out of the game for a pinch runner, and he didn't finish the game. Like the catcher, somebody else, and he's World Series MVP. It's just a random sort of like quirky thing that happened in that game because you didn't know that you were going to blow the game open.
You know what's funny? I had no idea Kirk Gibson ever played for the Royals
Yeah, he hit the game 1 home run with the Royals.
in '91.
The injured leg, game 1.
No, that's not for the Royals.
That was Kirk Gibson with the Royals.
Stop,
You're
stop.
lying. You're wrong. That was absolutely Kirk Gibson with the Royals, just as Fernando Valenzuela played for the Royals, too.
But did you guys know that? I mean, you probably did, but because you're older.
And you were -7?
-3.
Okay, very good. Jack, you were -8?
I was much younger, yes.
Do you know that Kirk Gibson played
I
for the?
did.
You did? Oh, am
did.
I just an idiot? Sorry, I'm an idiot.
I mean, it wasn't very long.
No, it was not very. It was 540 at bats in 1 year.
To your question about MVPs not finishing the game, how about
Yeah.
one that maybe we didn't even play in the final game in Steven Strasburg in 2019?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
pitcher, I mean, I'm kind
yeah.
of being.
But I mean, even that Bumgarner was on the mound.
Let's think of position
That's
players.
true.
MVP.
Position players. It'd have to almost be a.
It'd have to be a catcher, almost,
or,
right?
or a.
like Johnny Bench, or
Or like even like a Miguel Cabrera, who's like
who got
pinch
pinch hit,
runner.
right? Yeah. Marlins Miguel Cabrera, did he get pinched? Was he that slow at that time?
I think
You know,
he was still quick.
He was younger at that time.
20 years old, yeah.
It's funny because I was looking back at the Bartman thing with the two Jagovs in the right field, stands for the Yankees, and totally forgot that the ground ball to Alex Gonzalez that should have been a double play was Miguel Cabrera.
Yep.
That's how long this dude has been playing. Is that Bartman? The ground ball after Bartman. I got him confused the other day because I said the ground ball and then Bartman, but it was Bartman and then the ground ball to Alex Gonzalez that should have been a double play. That was Miggy that grounded out to the shortstop.
Two hopper.
Yes, I mean, just the tailor-made, as they would call it, 6-4-3. Just tailor-made 6-4-3.
Kyle Farnsworth pitched in that game.
In the Bartman game?
But I believe it was in the Bartman game.
Wow.
'Cause I looked it up, I go, Kyle Farnsworth? That's be a different Farnsworth, right? And I go, no, that's Kyle Farnsworth.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that happened. Mark Redmond started Game 7 for the Marlins.
That's a Royals
Against
legend.
Kerry Wood.
Now that's a Royals legend I know about.
Wow.
And one.
All-star Mark Redmond. Put some respect on
There
that
you
guy's
go.
name, okay? Put some respect on that guy's name, all right? He may have had a 7 ERA, but that man was like 9-1 at the All-Star break, okay? You put some respect on Mark Redmond's name, damn it.
Kerry Wood homered off him in that game, too. A 3-run homer.
Kerry Wood homered off
Kerry
the dude.
Wood was awesome.
Great.
You know what's crazy is I went back and, obviously, talking about the 2015 World Series and Game 5 happening today, but that Chiefs-Lions game that is just off into the only reason people would remember that game is, one, it was at Wembley, but also it was the day of Game 5 of the World Series. If the Royals weren't playing in the World Series that night, that game would just be totally forgotten. It'd be in the ether. Nobody would care. But it was passing the time that day just to get to the Royals, which is amazing to think about, that in today's Chiefs conversation that we were just sort of watching the game because it was something to do to get to that night. I went back and looked at the box score of the Chiefs and Lions. Don't do it, Sterling. Did you already do it?
No, I have I don't have the box score pulled up, but I have the entire season pulled up.
Okay, great. Don't look at the box score. Okay, this was crazy. I saw this and it just stood out like a sore thumb. It was such a blowout that both teams played their backup quarterback. So 4 quarterbacks threw a pass in that game. Who were the 4 quarterbacks that threw a pass in that game?
So Alex Smith,
And
Matt Stafford.
There you go. They're the 2.
Tim Boyle, I think,
No.
he was still in Purdue,
Nope,
probably,
not
wasn't
even-
he?
was, or Susan.
Chase Daniel for the
Chase
Chiefs.
Daniel for the Chiefs. There you go. And here's the fun one for the Lions.
Man.
Is he still in the league?
He's not in the league, but he's very connected to the league.
Okay.
And talks about him a lot.
Dan Orlovsky.
Dan Orlovsky. Dan Orlovsky, Chase Daniel,
I was
Alex
gonna
Smith,
ask
and Matt
if he
Stafford
was
threw a
on
pass in
television.
that game.
That was the hint I was going to
Those are the guys that played it. The last series for both teams was Dan Orlovsky versus Chase Daniel.
Yikes.
Now they are on TV breaking down other teams'
And they're
quarterbacks.
rivals because both of them break down kind of the same thing.
That's right.
So,
That's
yeah.
right. Dan Orlovsky. I just thought that was interesting. And then the leading rusher for the Chiefs that day was obviously Sharkandrick West.
I was going to say Sharkandrick West, probably.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, or Spencer Ware back then. It could have been either or.
Yep, Spencer. I think Spencer Ware had a touchdown. Sharkandrick West had a touchdown.
Everybody
Alex
had a
Smith
touchdown,
rushed for a
clearly.
touchdown. Macklin and Travis Kelce caught a touchdown. Even Kanile Davis got some, rushing yards in that game. So, it was a fun one just to go back and look at
Huge
as I
game,
was
by the way.
joking. So, it started
It started their
10-game
10-game win streak.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was the second game of their 10-game win
yeah,
streak.
because
they were
Pittsburgh was the first one.
Yeah,
they were 1-5.
because they had the bye after that, and then they went and won until they played New England and had the slowest 2-minute drill in the history of 2-minute drills in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
We're fine, guys.
Yes.
We'll just get the onside kick. All right, we're good. Slow down. Why are we rushing? You're not from Russia, so why are you rushing? All right, just calm down, dude. All right, just take it slow. So there you go. That was 9 years ago today. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. And I want to talk about last night, Thursday Night Football. The Texans lose. Garrett Wilson's Jordan-esque catch. Because when they paused it and his legs are spread and his arm is up, I mean, it's the Jordan logo.
Yeah.
I know he did that with Patrick Mahomes when he was flying through the air against the Bengals, but Garrett Wilson was even more the Jordan logo last night.
I have thoughts on that because
Okay, great.
Yeah, we'll have fun with that one.
Yes, we know about the 2 feet, 1 foot, and we also know about a shin as well. Shin to win, as the kids say in college. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk about the Texans. And also, because of that, 10 games remaining. What do the Chiefs have to do to get the 1 seed? 10 games remaining. What do they need for the 1 seed? We'll talk about the record that they would need to get the number 1 seed and why it could be decided on November 17th, just a few weeks away. More Zone next.
Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway and ESPN Bet are helping you this season. Make sure you download the ESPN Bet app today and explore the action-packed online sportsbook with exclusive odds boosts and cutting-edge features. Then stop in right there at Hollywood.
still think Odell Beckham Jr.'s was better. I think
there's no question Odell's
I think
was the
there's
catch.
some recency bias, but I think Odell Beckham Jr.'s was better because he also caught it and then had to reach back behind him and never touched the ball with his other hand. Brought it back in with only one hand. Like Garrett Wilson reached it. Garrett Wilson was amazing, so it's not like I'm downplaying that play. Without Odell Beckham Jr., it might be the greatest catch I've ever seen in the NFL with Garrett Wilson. But we've seen two guys have amazing catches like that. And the craziness of the NFL, I have never seen ever the same foot doesn't equal catch. Both feet as opposed to 2 feet. And then back-to-back games in the NFL, we see it. Monday night, George Pickens, same foot does not equal a touchdown. And then Garrett Wilson gets his same foot down twice. The other foot doesn't come down, but the same foot, same leg, the shin comes down. And obviously, if one shin touches in bounds, that is equal to both feet and is actually greater than the same foot twice. One shin greater than the same foot twice. That rule has to be changed, obviously. That was amazing. And I think, Sterling, on the basis of badassery alone, it deserved to be called a catch.
Hey, I get what you're saying. It was an
move on.
incredible play. I don't think he was in.
He was absolutely in.
Well, if you want to count the same foot twice, then yeah.
No,
like,
his shin touched the ground.
At the same time as needed.
No, it didn't.
That is not a catch.
The physics would tell you that the knee didn't touch the same time as the shin. If his foot comes down and hits first, then there's no way, unless that is one of the craziest knee going down. His foot goes down and then it's slow. Then it goes from bottom to top.
Dude, it's.
By the way, mark that. But anyway,
what did I say?
No, I said it.
Oh, good.
Yes,
good.
that was me.
Not me
that was
that
me.
time. I'm just
No.
always assume
The
it's me.
absurdity to me, not that the shin was in bounds before the knee, because it was. Everybody with eyes could see that.
Disagree.
The absurdity is that one shin equals more, or
Then
one shin is
agreed.
greater than the same foot twice.
My whole point is the catch rule needs to be fleshed out a little more. Like it should be like you know it when you see it. Like the 2 feet down, that should be a catch. How the hell?
Not both feet, 2 feet. No, I'm saying like it shouldn't be both feet.
Yeah,
it should be 2 feet, whether
2
it's the
feet,
same
yes.
foot or not. 2 feet down
2
should
feet
be a
down
catch.
should count. I just don't. If Calvin Johnson's wasn't a catch, I still always go back to that one. I
So
mean,
dumb.
and even
Des
this,
Bryant was absolutely a catch.
hell in this.
Everybody in this world knows Des Bryant caught the ball.
That's when it was Des Bryant.
But it's Calvin Johnson, too, because Calvin Johnson
had
was
the
the
same
first one to where his arm reached down and then he lost the ball.
Correct.
After taking 2 steps and I think starting to celebrate.
Correct.
And it was not a catch. Like
Tyler Conklin, I thought,
started the whole
almost
damn
was
thing.
was more of a catch in this one. That was a fumble that was overturned than Garrett. I thought Garrett Wilson's his shin knee. If you're going by milliseconds,
yeah, that's what they are.
Which
that,
I think
that counts. Just like in baseball, if instant replay with the
which again I don't think it should.
the ball
be
hits
used
the
that
back of the
way.
glove before the foot hits the back.
To me, it's more like when you slide off of the base and you're off for just a millisecond. You're there. That's stupid. That you're safe.
You and I agree with that.
That's not what the rule was meant for.
Yeah.
Just how I don't know if the rule was exactly meant for this.
Technically, the rule is that you have to be on the base with the tag
but
off the base. You know?
It's used as a loophole.
I know.
The shin versus knee conversation. This feels like a loophole. Like
It does.
I just feel like that needs to be changed a little bit. And again,
Well,
I think it should have been a catch because of the 2 right feet or whatever, or 2 left feet, whatever foot it was.
He's not a good dancer.
Not
He's
a
got
good
2 left
dancer.
feet.
It's him and George Pickens would be horrible partners together.
They both have 2 left feet.
Don't put them on Dance with the Stars.
Wasn't Pickens 2 right feet though?
Well, maybe they even each other out.
Yeah, I think was it 2 left feet? I don't remember. Either way,
That's my take on it.
Jack, how dumb is
phenomenal
Sterling?
Play.
How dumb is Sterling with the
Well-
thinking that the shin and the knee came down at the exact same time?
Well, I actually, as Sterling was talking, I was looking at the replay, and from what I'm seeing here, it is shin knee.
yeah, of course. That's because you have eyes.
Dude, I wasn't sure until the final 5 seconds of the video, and then I did see shin knee.
Yeah, because as the leg is coming down, it's the foot, then ankle, then shin, then knee, because that's how
It
physics
would have to
work.
go. His knee would have had to hit first for it to
Well, his
go
ankle
knee,
would have
shin.
had to snap
Right.
for the knee,
Yeah.
then to hit first before the shin. Like, which we've seen happen before. We've seen.
No,
happen.
It's a loophole.
It's a loophole.
I think we're all in agreement of how dumb it is that one shin is greater than the same foot twice.
Correct, especially when the shin lands at nearly then the exact same time as the knee. It's imperceptible.
Yes, I totally agree. And we saw again last night, and rookie, whether you want to call it a rookie mistake or just, come on, you're playing football. I wanted the Chiefs to get Malachi Corley. I really liked Malachi Corley. He's a poor man's version of Deebo Samuel. They're not using him in New York. And, I don't know how much he would be using. He'd be used more now with the injuries, but I would have liked to see the Chiefs go and get Malachi Corley. That would have been cool. But apparently the Chiefs knew that he does not carry the ball into the end zone. So they knew more than we did. They have the interviews and the workouts and things like that. I felt bad because he's.
They actually asked that question. They say, "Would you drop the ball before? Would you start celebrating right on the goal line, or do you wait a yard in?"
And his point is, what's the point of scoring if you can't look cool doing it? Right? Barry Sanders never looked cool scoring. Oh, I scored a touchdown. I hand the ball to the ref. Ooh, boring. You get more points. Style points actually matter. It's like the judges in the Olympics. But I felt bad because he's a hilltopper. And,
I don't feel bad.
I don't feel bad because I had Joe Mixon first touchdown, so I don't feel bad at all. It was great, but it's absolutely dumb. Like in today's day, how could you possibly do that? How could you possibly be a football player that doesn't carry the football at least 5 yards?
A week after the Buccaneers Kyle Pitts situation.
Yeah,
like a week
and Pitts
after
got lucky.
He got lucky
because there wasn't an angle.
Right.
There wasn't a camera. You're right. There wasn't a camera angle. Had there been a camera angle for Pitts, I believe that would have been a fumble.
Which, boy, if they could find the money somewhere to get cameras on every game like that.
It's weird. They can do it for big games, nationally televised games. Right. They have the pylon, and they have the camera angles right down the goal line. But
for whatever the NFL has sponsors or makes money or anything.
They don't, though. They're hemorrhaging money. Yeah, it's too bad. It's too bad. I don't know what the future of the NFL is going to be, but it's not inelastic, and who knows when it's going to happen. Let's talk about the Chiefs, though, because the Jets get the win. The Texans lose. They are now 6-3. Chiefs are 7-0. They have 10 games remaining. They play the Texans at home. They go to Buffalo. We know that. They still go to Pittsburgh. What's the record for the Chiefs the rest of the way for them to get the 1 seed? What's the minimum record? I mean, if they go 10-0, then yes, we're talking about that. If they go 9-1, yes, because every other team has at least 2 losses. But what's the minimum record to where you go, if they're this, they'll be the 1 seed? I think it's 6-4, but I think safely 7-3. If they're 7-3, they're the 1 seed no matter who they lose to. Even if they lose to Buffalo. Even if there's a fire, I'm not going to call them dad. Even if they lose to Buffalo,
that line.
They sitting 7-3. Even if they lose to Houston now. Because Houston, if they beat the Chiefs, would still have to win every other game the rest of the way. With that offensive line and no Stephon Diggs, good, and Will Anderson now with an ankle injury, and the volatility of Joe Mixon's health, 1 week to the next, and their offense is just night and day with Joe Mixon. If Joe Mixon isn't in there, their offense is completely substandard because they can't protect C.J. Stroud. They can run the football. Joe Mixon is really good at running the football. It's one of the reasons why the Bengals.
How many broken tackles behind the line of scrimmage did he have? Like how many times?
The Bengals made a mistake not bringing back Joe Mixon.
That was insane.
They made a mistake, and I think there's an element of running backs being interchangeable, but I also think we acknowledge that Clyde Edwards-Helaire to Isaiah Pacheco was an upgrade.
Correct.
So therefore, we also acknowledge that different running backs offer something different to the table. McCaffrey over Jordan Mason makes a huge difference. Joe Mixon over Chase Brown and Zach Moss would make a difference for the Bengals offense.
Yeah.
I went 7-3 for the Chiefs as minimum. If they go 7-3, I think 6-4 gets it done. I really do. Because that would mean that even if the Chiefs lose to Buffalo would then can only lose 2 games the rest of the way. But I think 7-3, you're the number 1 seed. Even if you lose to Buffalo, you're the 1 seed.
So 13-4 overall, but I think you have to beat Buffalo to go 13-4. No. I'm saying
6-4 would be 13-4.
That's my point.
Okay.
So I say if they go 13-4 and they beat Buffalo, which would mean that'd be a wild the teams they would lose to.
Right.
But if they go 13-4 with the win over Buffalo, they're automatically the 1 seed. I think if they're 14-3 with a loss at Buffalo, they're still the 1 seed. I think we're on the same page here.
No, I totally agree with that. If somehow they lose 4 games to non-Buffalo. That
Well, I
would be
mean, maybe
interesting.
it's the Texans, Steelers, the last game.
Well,
of
if
the
they've
season,
lost a
you're
game,
sitting
then
guy.
Denver,
Yeah,
you're sitting everybody. Jack, what do you think the record is for them to get the 1 seed? 'Cause
I think if you didn't have to worry about it all, it would be 13-4. I do think there's a world where they could get it at 12-5, just because I'm not that
so
confident.
Buffalo would be 6 losses,
Yes.
so they would lose 4 more games the rest of the way the Bills would, which they could.
That's like I would say there is a world in which that could happen, but if I'm talking about, I'm not even sweating it. I don't even care what the other team does. I think 13-4 is good
Really?
enough to get you there because I don't see Buffalo matching that or doing better than
Buffalo has Miami this weekend, and Miami is going to play incredibly. Miami season's on the line this weekend.
Yeah.
Correct.
This is whether they get like the Rams last Thursday night. Rams season was on the line. The Miami Dolphins season on the line this weekend.
Hey, we talked about the 9 years ago, the 2015 Chiefs. The Dolphins are 2-5.
Yeah, there you go.
What happened?
And
It's been done.
And they've got Tua back. Kevin Harlan loves to say, "Find me the more desperate team, and I'll point to the team that has the better chance of winning." I know it's in Buffalo, so that makes a difference. But Miami is incredibly desperate this weekend. They're going to be playing with everything they have to save their season. Buffalo goes to Indianapolis still, and with Joe Flacco, that's different. They have to go to Detroit. They play San Francisco, which will have a healthy McCaffrey on the field.
Should
have a healthy McCaffrey for your fantasy football sake, especially.
Jets again.
At
Jets,
the,
yeah.
at the,
If they
Ra-
play
at
like
the
they did last
Rams.
night.
At the Rams, which could be much different too at that time because they're getting healthier as the season goes along. So if the Chiefs were to lose to the Bills, that means the Bills could only lose 1 game the rest of the way to take advantage of the tiebreaker. If the Chiefs go 7-3 and lose to the Bills. And the reason I go 7-3 because they can lose to any of Pittsburgh. They could lose to Pittsburgh because then Pittsburgh would
where's
have to only
Pittsburgh at?
lose.
It's hilarious to
I
even
don't
think about.
I
Like,
don't
we
put
don't
them in
think,
the category.
we don't
but
think Pittsburgh's good, but they're 6-2.
I know.
They
I
have
just
a
don't-
better point differential
I
than the
know.
Chiefs.
I know they were going.
Like,
I don't trust them at this point. I still don't.
I'm the same way as you. Like
Yeah.
I feel the same way. They feel like frauds, and I don't know if frauds is the right word, but I don't get it. Like all the underlying numbers, it's the eye test that doesn't really fit with the underlying numbers, the analytics, or because the point differential is the second best in the AFC.
They remind me a lot of Green Bay of last year, which doesn't bode well for the Chiefs because they played them in Lambeau last year. Like Green Bay really until that game against the Cowboys in the postseason, they weren't flashy. They just were.
I mean, that game
good
at
enough.
Pittsburgh, the game at Pittsburgh may not even matter though.
True.
Like who knows what the
Hopefully
case is. Like I look at it 7. The reason I say 7-3, they're absolutely the 1 seed. And can they get to 7-3 in these last 10 games? They play Carolina and they play Vegas. That gives them they're 2-0 of these last 10 games. So, can they go 5-3 against Tampa Bay, Denver, Chargers, all those games at home, at Buffalo, at Cleveland, Houston at home, at Pittsburgh, and then at Denver? Can they win? Can they go 5-3 against that group? Yes.
Yeah,
That
especially
is so much more than doable.
You're getting a Minahu back at some point. You're getting
Yes.
Pacheco back at some point.
I
The
didn't-
potential of Hollywood Brown back at some point.
5-3, and I didn't give them this Monday. I'm saying 5-3,
Yeah.
including Tampa Bay and Denver. The only games I gave them was Carolina and Vegas.
Well,
That's it.
It's the NFL, so it's any given game, any
Right.
given Sunday or Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday
But
or Thursday.
if they win against Tampa, then you would have to go 4-3
Yeah.
in those games remaining. Like
It'd be a letdown if they went 4-3.
Well,
it
they're-
would be
they're
a
in a great
total
spot.
letdown.
I mean,
yes, that's what the AFC is cannibalizing themselves. And Houston losing again last night in a game that was winnable. The Jets probably have to win at least 6 more games to get into the playoffs, which I think they can because they've got a very workable schedule.
Who was that? The Jets? You said
The Jets,
Yeah.
whether they get in the playoffs or not. But we're talking about the 1 seed. I 7-3, and they are absolutely the one. And that's where November 17th, the 1 seed could be decided. If the Chiefs go to Buffalo and win, they're the 1 seed. November 17th, the 1 seed could be essentially, it's all over but the crying. It could be wrapped up at that point before you even get to Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Again,
10-0.
what's crazy is that the team
Yeah, they'd be 10-0 at that point.
the team they must have to look out most for, which is crazy to think about, is Denver.
Yeah, I mean, Denver's right there. They play them twice still.
That's my point.
They've got a
because
3-game
they
lead on
have-
them, and they play them twice.
They play them twice. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm just saying of any team, it's almost like for the Royals. It was the Detroit series.
Yeah.
That's the team you had to look out for was Detroit.
Yeah.
And they did it. That was a historic run from Detroit. I don't think Denver's the same team by any means. But they're only, again, that's what, 2 games back, 3 games. They have 3 losses. However you want to view it, because they played one more game.
If you win the next 2 weeks against Tampa Bay and Denver, you then need to go 3-3 in the final 6 games, or final.
Basically, if you beat Denver, you've sewed it up.
Not in the final 6 games. In the 6 games, not counting Carolina and Vegas. Again, I've already given them Carolina and Vegas, and I know any given Sunday, whatever. I've given them Carolina and Vegas. That would put them at 9-0 with 8 games remaining. And of those 8 games, if you win against Tampa Bay and Denver, you would then need to go 3-3 the rest of the way against Buffalo, the Chargers at home, the Texans at home, at Cleveland, at Pittsburgh, at Denver. Can you win 3 of those games, and you are absolutely the 1 seed. And if you win against Buffalo, you might be talking about resting players against Pittsburgh and Denver, which they wouldn't do. Also, one thing that may come up, if they wrap up the 1 seed early, do they rest players against the Denver Broncos? It'll start to get to a conversation, because that Broncos game is early enough, or the Pittsburgh Steelers game being on Christmas Day. If you don't play against Denver, you would have 25 days off between Pittsburgh and the divisional round.
Man, it's about a month.
25 days without playing a game if you do not play them against Denver. That's a question that, if they're 16-0, then you play them against Denver. But if they've lost a game or 2 along the way, Andy Reid's really going to have to decide what's best for his team. Getting out there, staying fresh, or, knowing you're going to get the week off, or what do you do? Sit the guys and not risk injury, and then your next game after 25 days will be in the divisional round against a team that had to fight to get into the playoffs and just won a playoff game the week before. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll hear from Lee Sterling with Todd Lebo, and then Matt Derrick will join us at 11 o'clock. More Zone next.
from national sports handicapping champion Lee Sterling on The Zone. Log on to ParamountSports.com or call toll-free 800-400-9741 to get started.
Welcome back into The Zone here on this Red Friday. Chiefs don't play on Sunday, but they play on Monday, but we'll still have a Red Friday here for you, and that means we've got Lee Sterling from Paramount Sports on the line. And Lee, October is over. It's November 1st, but that means it's Dovember.
Right, it is. September was a winning month. Not October. October was great. We won 7 to 9 weeks. It's like going to the window. If you collect 7 out of 9 times, you're going to be pretty darn happy. And I think we're locked in for another big week. So I may not have the Ohio State Penn State game as a game for my clients. Those games are great to watch, but if you want games that are going to more than often win, we won 29 out of 30 years. We're on our way to our 30th in 31 years. Normally $5.97 for 5 weeks, for not November, Dovember. You can get it for $3.97. How do you do it? Just go to ParamountSports.com where it says Purchase Picks. Click on there. Also for the season, it's normally $1,097. We've reduced that to $7.97, and that gives you the college regular season, what's left. I think we got 5 weeks left. You got all the college bowl games, and remember the playoffs go almost until the end of January this year. Then the NFL regular season, playoffs, and Super Bowl, $797. There's services out there charging $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and they don't even win. So just one place, ParamountSports.com.
All right, let's get after some of these college football games here on this Friday. First one you mentioned, this is a big game. Obviously, Penn State's at home. Ohio State's favored there. This is an interesting game.
It is, and in the past I've gone against James Franklin a lot. I mean, he just didn't have the horses. The play calling was too conservative. But some things have changed. If you watch that USC game, they were down 14, and they had a couple super secret trick plays, and they worked. I think he's more attuned to take chances. They played against speed, and they figured him out in the second half here. I think this is a team that's really improving here. Whether Drew Alara, I'm hearing he's going to start, he plays, or even Bo Probilla, who's a dual-threat quarterback, I think you're fine there. Ohio State may not be the team we thought they were. So they do lose a close game to Oregon. Everyone thought they'd come back off the bye week and be ready and steamroll Nebraska. What happened? Their top 2 running backs were Judkins and Henderson were held to a combined 54 yards on 20 carries. They could be down to their third-string offensive tackle. This is by far the best front 7 they'll face. Unless they hit on some plays to their great receivers down the field, and a bunch of them, I think they're in trouble here. Wrong team favored. We're going to go with Penn State 27-23 over Ohio State, straight up.
Yeah, Penn State's got it going at home for sure, and the Kansas fans hate the fact that Andy Kotelnicki's calling all those cool plays. Yep. But, hey, listen, that's the way it goes. You can't keep all your coordinators forever. Another big one in the Big Ten, Indiana has passed every test. They are 8-0 now, but they're on the road, and they're a touchdown or a point more than that favored against Michigan State, who is decent at home, kind of, but they're just kind of a middling team.
They are, but if you watch them closely, they probably should have won that game last week against Michigan. Just couldn't come up with the big play. They actually outgained Michigan on the road. Young quarterback who's starting to get better now. All of a sudden, Indiana, who's 7-0 against the spread, 8-0 straight up, ranked 13th. That bullseye's on their back. And Michigan State, I think, can win the battle in the trenches here. I think they escape here, 27-24. It's going to get a lot tougher. They probably wouldn't have won that game last week except for that pick 6 to start the game. Washington just could never come up and get back in the game here. If that happens, pick 6, it's a 14-point switch a lot of times. Let's take the 7.5 in Michigan State.
All right, we got a Big 12 game of note here. Iowa State undefeated, hanging out, doing great. They're home against Texas Tech. Now, Texas Tech, the more things change, the more they stay the same. They don't have any defense, right?
No.
But this is almost 2 touchdowns. Is that too many points for Iowa State?
I don't think so. If you watch the Iowa State game against Central Florida's defense scored on 2 fluke plays. So I think Iowa State will be ready coming off of bye. They lost the last 2 games to Texas Tech, so you know they're going to be focused here. Number 13th rated defense. They have a good running game, Texas Tech, but unless they get into some short situations like 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4, I think Iowa State's going to get to the quarterback here, and Texas Tech's quarterback not 100% here, Barons Morton. So I think sometimes you got to lay it if you want to play it here. Iowa State keeps rolling here, 34-16.
Looks like they're on a collision course with K-State at the end of the year for maybe one of these bids in the Big 12 title game. K-State had to go all the way to the end in a very emotional game against Kansas last week. They're clearly a better team than Houston, but they got to get on the plane, fly to Houston, and go play a team that's not very good. Once again, big number is 2 touchdowns too many for K-State in this game.
And who's the coach for Houston? Willie Fritz. If you remember, Tulane a couple years ago rolled in to Manhattan and won the game outright. His offense isn't there yet, but their defense is very under the radar, very opportunistic, just like when he coached at Tulane. He's going to build a winner. But playing double digits on the road after a game like that, I'm not involved here. Kansas State, I think they escape here also here, 27-20.
Well, they'll take the win because all that matters right now is wins for them, that's for sure. All right, so the Chiefs, undefeated, they're at home against the Bucs. I think everyone was excited about this game about 3 weeks ago. And now with Mike Evans out and Chris Godwin out, it doesn't quite look as cool as it did before. But the Chiefs don't beat anyone bad. They don't, and this is a 9-point line.
Yeah, I mean the Chiefs' average win is by 7 points, 7.1 points to be exact. Their really only great outing was when they whipped the 49ers, when they were underdogs here. Kansas City certainly is not the underdog here. Tampa Bay lost 911 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns when Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were hurt 2 weeks ago. Baker Mayfield started to compensate. I like the way he spread the ball around to 9 different receivers last week. Mayfield, NFL leading 21 touchdown passes, good running game here. They can be counted on to play the entire game hard, and Chiefs are 5-11-1 against the spread when laying more than 7 points. Chiefs win again and don't cover, 27-20.
Hey, once again, Chiefs fans will take it. Get to 8-0 and be going for an undefeated season. We don't talk about that around here. You're certainly not going to ask anyone about it. But listen, the only team with a chance. They're undefeated right now. We hope you go undefeated this week. You got a free play for us too.
Yep, free play is going to be Baltimore and Denver. No one saw Denver the way they look now. I mean, it's a team that defense is coming around, been solid all year, and all of a sudden Bo Nix playing a really good air-free ball, running, throwing the football, developing some weapons, running back, tight end, and the receiving position. So can they do enough to hang close with Baltimore? Who's 5-3, coming off a smarting loss last week at Cleveland. So this is a huge game here. First 10 callers that call 800-400-9741. We'll give them Baltimore and Denver on me. Like I mentioned before, you want to hop on board. It's November, 5 weeks, normally $597, just $397. Also follow us on YouTube and also TikTok at Paramount Sports. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to give away on Saturday morning one all-access pass. That is one full year of football, basketball, baseball, hockey, and UFC. Over $7,000 value on each one. So sign up on YouTube. Start following us on YouTube and also TikTok. And you're going to be registered to win. You might be that person that gets contacted on Saturday morning, getting $7,000 in value my entire year in all 5 sports. Just one place, ParamountSports.com, or call us here at the office, 800-400-9741.
I like it. Lee Sterling and Paramount Sports are on TikTok now. That's good stuff. Lee, good luck this weekend. We'll talk to you on Sunday for Chiefs Tailgate. More Zone coming up next on Sports Radio 810 WHB on a Red Friday.
Dylan Michaels heading up until 2 o'clock. We will hear from the Chiefs later on this hour, as it'll be coordinator day, some assistant coaches as well. And then Kendall Gammon in the noon hour, Mick Schaefer at the 1 o'clock hour. We still have Sad Fans today, Raiders edition. And let's talk with Matt Derrick. Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. Matt, what's up, brother?
I'm just trying to figure out which day of the week it is with the Chiefs. I mean, and this is the easy part of the schedule. I mean, This is only the second Monday game, and
you're right.
Only one Thursday. I mean, it doesn't really get hairy until Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
and then it really all goes downhill after that.
You got Saturdays and Wednesdays and Fridays and Mondays.
Monday games. I can't keep track of the days of the week.
Yeah,
I mean, this feels because this is Thursday to me.
Well, it's funny because after Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes talked yesterday, we got towards the end of the show, and I'm sitting here thinking, like, all right, tomorrow's Thursday. I'm like, wait a minute. No, tomorrow's Friday. Because, Mahomes and Andy Reid totally threw me off, right? Because they talk on a Wednesday. So used to that being a Wednesday. But not the case. Today's a Friday for us and a Thursday for the Chiefs, and it'll be a Monday for them on Monday Night Football. We'll get into the Chiefs and Bucks here in just a little bit. But let's start off with the trade this week. Joshua Uche, it's been the talk around Kansas City, as last week was the talk around Kansas City with DeAndre Hopkins. So we'll see what player they bring in next week. 3 weeks in a row. We'll see if that's the case. But they bring in Joshua Uche. I know you've talked about it a couple times, but I want to get your thoughts here. We heard him talk yesterday, and I think he and Dave Merritt will go back and forth with who has one of the coolest voices with the Chiefs. When I was listening to him, I'm like, is this Dave Merritt? This kind of sounds like Dave Merritt.
They could definitely do some voiceover work.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think of the player? Not necessarily the voiceover work, potential acting future for him, but the player Joshua Uche that they brought in.
I think he should be a great fit for this defense. I mean, I think he does bring them something that they don't have right now, which is a bit of a speed rusher, a guy who can bend around the edge a little bit more than maybe some of the other guys that they have. And what are their expectations for him? How are they expecting him to fit in? They want him to be a rotational piece. Obviously the expectation is that Karlaftis and Dana will be their starters. And then you've got Felix. You're going to have Charles Omenihu back, likely within the next month.
Mm-hmm.
And then Uche, and those be the three, guys backing him up. And you can use him in different ways. I mean, I still think that he's probably going to be primarily a pass rusher. I know he's a little undersized, so I don't know if you want him, on the edge and run downs. But, he's still a good, strong, smart player, so I think he could handle, in multiple roles like that. But I think you're still going to be using him mostly as a pass rusher. He's been productive in that role. I mean, 2 years ago, had 11 and a half sacks.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that, when Chris Jones on this team has done. So he's got an accomplishment there that, that the rest of this group doesn't have. They needed to bulk up the pass rush. I mean, they've been looking for a little while now. And now they've got at least a little bit more insurance towards injury, because now, if something happens to Omenihu, I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, he looks like he's ready to come back. But injuries happen. So now if you lose somebody else, you've got a little bit more depth there.
We talked with Adam Teicher on Tuesday, and one of the things that I was wondering, and I think a lot of people as the news came down, was, okay, one, is this they just wanted to bring this guy in? Is this an indication or some connection with Omenihu or Dana? We now know Dana's back at practice, so that's good. And there's always that difference of return to play versus return to production for Omenihu, and we'll see. Hopefully return to production comes with return to play for him. And one of the things he mentioned was that they didn't set out to acquire Joshua Uche. He said it sort of just happened that way. It wasn't like they set out to acquire a wide receiver, And so I'm not sure what took place there, but to me it sort of sounded a little bit like Drew Tranquill, where they weren't looking for Drew Tranquill, and Drew Tranquill sort of came together, and they were sort of looking, and the Chiefs, and it matched up. What do you make of that? If that's how it went down, that the Chiefs weren't necessarily shopping for Joshua Uche, the Patriots were shopping him. They set him down on Sunday and said, "You're a healthy scratch," as he said yesterday. That's when he knew something was going to happen. And maybe that's when it became hot and heavy with other teams, and certainly with the Chiefs. They weren't necessarily looking for him, according to Adam Teicher. What do you make of that? And that would certainly tell me that has no connection whatsoever to Omenihu or Dana or anything like that, that this was one of those that made sense for both parties, made sense for them, and said, let's bring in another weapon. I mean, yeah, we might be looking at another position, but let's bring in another weapon for Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah, I mean, this move does not say anything about Omenihu or Dana. I mean, that's not related to their injuries whatsoever. But even back to training camp, I mean, this was a want that this team had, as far as just bringing in some more depth on that defensive line. And a little bit of it, you can see why. I mean, the production hasn't been there this year as much as it had been the last couple of seasons. The pressure's still kind of there, but they're not getting the sacks that they did. And, and those can be sometimes a little quirky. I mean, pressure doesn't always relate and correlate the sacks. Sometimes sacks don't correlate the pressure. I mean, it kind of goes both ways. But no, I mean, they've had. I mean, there's a couple of positions that they've had concerns about depth. Going back to training camp and beyond. I mean, it was on the defense, and it was corner and defensive end, and so they've been in the market. They've been looking. It wasn't like with wide receiver where it's like they're just desperately saying, "Hey, okay, is this guy available? Is this guy available?"
Calling every
anything
team.
like that. It's been more of just a, hey, we're in the market for defensive end, so if anybody's got anybody, let us know.
Yeah. If you're ready, whenever you're ready to move, let us know. Reach out to us.
Yeah.
Because we certainly want somebody, and maybe Uche was on their list of players of, hey, if this guy's going to get moved, then let's reach out and let him know that we're.
And if you're a productive defensive end from Michigan, there's no doubt that the Chiefs have just called at some point and said, hey, if you ever want to get rid of this guy, let us know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yes.
They love their Michigan guys.
Yeah.
They're well coached. They like it. They like the fact that they usually have a lot of flexibility. They can come in and do a lot of things. So, yeah, there's an era of Michigan defensive linemen that they just absolutely love.
Is there a connection with Uche and the cornerback spot? That's the next step that people are saying, okay, well, if you can't improve at the cornerback spot, improve at the pass rush so you don't have to blitz as often, so you don't put as much pressure on guys that may be in cover one or man-to-man or having to disguise some different things or fake a blitz or all of those things that Steve Spagnuolo is so good at. That if you could just put pressure with four, you take pressure off of a Roland Wallace or Joshua Williams or Najee Johnson. How much of this is connected with that? Is it independent of, we just want to put pressure on the quarterback? Spags is still going to be Spags. And do you think they're still in the market to maybe look for a veteran cornerback to bring in to bolster that area of weakness? Because wide receiver, defensive end, and cornerback were the three spots we thought they could certainly use an improvement, and they've tackled two of the three.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any doubt that yes, if you can't, if you're worried about your cornerbacks, and let's face it, I mean, Chiefs were once again, go back to the training camp. I mean, they were worried about their corners, mostly because they knew what they had in Trent McDuffie, but they didn't know what they had in anybody else because nobody else had been a consistent starter. They had L'Jarius Sneed for the last few years. So, all these guys, Josh Williams, Jalen Watson, Najee most of all, because Najee had never played a down in an NFL game until this season because of the injuries. He just played on special teams, so he hadn't played a defensive down. They didn't know what they had in any of these players. They had the most confidence in Jalen Watson, and they were really just banking on, okay, let's get Jalen to the end of training camp. We'll get him all the rust knocked off in that one last preseason game and then roll. And he just continued to get better week by week. He was the guy they were looking for to just go out and claim that job. Now, hey, they're banking on Najee Johnson being that guy. But, Nazee's coming back from an ACL. He's not – and you just hear this from every player with an ACL. Anybody will tell you. First year back, you're not the same. It's the second year back where, you really feel like your strength has come back. Tershawn Wharton is a great example of that. And he will tell you that he feels like a different player than he did last year. He looks like a different player than he did last year. So there's a lot of truth in that. So, in one way, how do you handle that? One way is that you handle the workload. Like when Omenihu comes back, the Chiefs aren't going to ask him to have as big of a workload as he did last year because they want him to play fewer snaps and be more effective. I don't want to wear him out, which can absolutely happen. So now with that, cornerback group, that's the challenge that you're going to have. So to your original point, yeah, if you can't improve the cornerback group, and that's one challenge that the Chiefs are having, which is just that there's no one available on the market at a price that they want, the price that they can afford, both in draft pick compensation and because what are you looking for? You're looking for a corner that is affordable because you have very little cap room. You don't want to give them any, first or second day draft pick. You'd like to keep your first, second, and third rounders. So you want a guy who can cover, who's cheap, that you don't have to give up a lot for. Well, name me the guy that some team is out there and saying, we've got a starting corner that we'd be glad to let you have for
the only
fifth-round pick.
The only one I've heard that would make the most sense, and Adam Kaplan brought this up yesterday, I hadn't thought of it at all, because I was searching and thinking the same thing, and he said it's dependent on a game this week in the Miami Dolphins and Buffalo Bills. He said if Miami loses, they'll be looking to be sellers, and he said keep an eye on Kendall Fuller for the Miami Dolphins. And he said if the Chiefs are going to make a move, familiar with Spags, they're familiar with him. He's only got a 1.2 base salary this year, so it's affordable. It wouldn't cost him much in draft pick compensation. If Miami wins, they're not trading anybody. If they lose, then they may be open for business. That's the one. He's like, it's the one name that I can put out there that I think would make the most sense and has all of those things together, like you're talking about, because I wouldn't have thought of a name that has everything. It's just a name he threw out there. I mean, who knows if that's even going to be? Who knows if Miami is even wanting to move him? Who knows if the Chiefs are even interested, right? Because
exactly.
I mean, can he be an outside corner? Is he more of a jack of all trades type thing? Because even when he was with the Chiefs at the last couple of games, he was playing deep safety for the Chiefs.
I mean, that's the advantage is that Kendall Fuller is one smart player, two knows the system, and has incredible flexibility.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the thing because the Chiefs, what they really want and what they really need is a guy who can compete to be their second or third corner.
Yeah.
They don't really need somebody to just be depth.
They're trading for Jalen Ramsey like the Dolphins had to do.
Yeah, I mean, and like Uche. Uche was for depth.
Yeah.
They're not bringing Uche in to be their second or third defensive end. They're bringing him in to be their fourth or fifth. So that's different.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see if that's the case. DeAndre Hopkins had his first game we're visiting with Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest, and 41 is the mic, and also the Chiefs Digest Live that happens during the week that you can check out. He and Nick Jacobs do that as well. DeAndre Hopkins, initial thoughts and what we saw from him. Really surprised he played 32% of the snaps in the game. I think that's a fantastic indication of what he'll be for this team, because if 3 days in the office he's playing a third of the snaps, we know he's a smart football player, but what did you see from him, and what kind of elevation to the offense do you think he can bring?
Yeah, it was pretty obvious to me. I thought that it looked like they just gave him a lot of third down packages and maybe a few goal line packages for week one. That was mostly what we saw. I mean, even that sideline throw to get him in the field goal range and into the set first half was a third down throw. I mean, that's so. I mean, the fact that he was able to pick up that much of it that quickly, and that he and Mahomes are on the same page of that quickly. I mean, I know they had the one misconnection, but that's going to happen. So, to me, I think that there's you can see, hey, DeAndre Hopkins is a super high football IQ receiver. So, even if he doesn't know every bit of the playbook, he knows the routes, he knows the opponents, he's seen everything. So there's nothing that's going to surprise him. He knows, and this is the one advantage that you do a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, and this is what I would say would be that there's maybe Hopkins is the only player who was available that would fit into this category, who has been around long enough and is smart enough that knows, hey, if I'm seeing this coverage, if I'm seeing this, if the defense is doing this to me, it doesn't matter what the route is. This is where I need to go. This is where the open space is. And he's got a quarterback who thinks that same way too, who thinks about where the open space is. And if you're smart enough, like a Travis Kelce and a DeAndre Hopkins, to respond that way and think, okay, hey, if the corner's lined up on me like this, hey, I know, and does this to me, hey, if the corner goes inside, hey, I can adjust, I can do this. And Mahomes sees those exact same things because he's also a high football IQ player. So you got both of those guys together. Yeah, I mean, I think that the ability to build some chemistry and get on the same page is going to be a lot quicker, and I think we saw that.
Yeah.
And, it's just, and once again, I mean, the skill set. I mean, he's not going to drop anything. It's DeAndre Hopkins.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, every guy in that, and so far every wide receiver that I've talked to in that locker room, so far has just been like, this dude's got the biggest hands I've ever seen.
Yeah, right. I mean, it swallows up your hand when if you shake his hand. The one thing too about DeAndre Hopkins that we'll see how much they utilize this part of his game versus sort of the middle of the field. And I know we talked about back shoulder throws and the jump balls and things like that, but he showed it in one of his 2 catches over the weekend, and that is, has the man ever only had 1 foot in bounds on the sideline? Like, I don't know that DeAndre Hopkins has ever, ooh, that was close, he only got the 1 foot in. I mean, the toe drag swag, he might be the one that invented that. I mean, he's as brilliant as it comes to knowing where he's at and just having that sixth sense of football in knowing where he is on the field. And it happened in that play, and I think it's something that the Chiefs can certainly take advantage of. I mean, Justin Watson has some of those throws to the sideline, but DeAndre Hopkins is a guy that just, if it's near the sideline, he's going to catch it, and he's going to get 2 feet in bounds. It's just the things that he brings to the table are exciting for what this offense can do.
Yeah, and if you are a Justin Ross season believer, then this is the greatest trade ever for you, because I think that the guy that was most excited that I've talked to in that locker room about it was Justin Ross.
Interesting.
Because, I mean, obviously there's Clemson connection and everything like
true,
that.
yeah.
But he's like, hey, Marquez was kind of my body type too. We were kind of similar receivers. But he's like, I modeled my game after DeAndre Hopkins.
Wow.
I mean, this was the guy I watched growing up and everything. So, and he's like that. He plays exactly the way I want to play. So he's like, the things that I can learn from him, not just technique-wise, not just training-wise and everything, but just even the little things. He's like, this is the first guy that I can really learn from all these things.
That's cool.
So, like I said, if you're a believer in Justin Ross, this edition, I mean, he's like another coach on the field for Justin Ross.
So in fantasy football, if you're going through a draft, you don't have to worry about the compensation or anything, or the draft pick, I guess, specifically at that point, but future draft picks or what it costs in the salary cap. If you've got 2 guys sitting there and you choose which one you want, it's clearly you like that one better than the other. It's not apples to apples, but it's close in terms of what they gave up, and sort of the salary cap was even more expensive for DeAndre. But DeAndre Hopkins, Deontay Johnson. Did the Chiefs take DeAndre Hopkins because Deontay Johnson wasn't necessarily available at that time, or they didn't know it would be that cheap? Or the Chiefs went after DeAndre Hopkins because they weren't interested in Deontay Johnson? And what do you read in the tea leaves of the information we have? I don't know what the reporting is behind the scenes, but what do you read in the tea leaves as to why Deontay Johnson was 1 available and 2 at that price to the Ravens?
Chiefs were not interested. I firmly believe that. And, I saw a report earlier, just, I think the day before the trade went down, said, was the, a lot of interest, we don't know where Deontay Johnson's going to go, but he's on the market. And then when I saw the compensation for what he went for, I was like, okay, well, that came from the agent.
Yeah.
Because that didn't come from any team. Because, I mean, if the Chiefs wanted Deontay Johnson, they could have had him and DeAndre Hopkins, because that compensation from Baltimore, that was, as I quote my dear friend Nick Jacobs, that was Carolina playing a game of, let's play a game of you not be here anymore, Deontay. Because when
what
you
would we
give
look
away
like if
for
you're just not on the team?
A swap of day 3 picks
that may only be like 5
20
or 6 spots.
I mean, it might only be 5, 10, 15, 20 spots.
Because right now it's 18. Now we don't know what the comp picks in the 6th round will end up being. But, where the Ravens are picking right now versus the Panthers probably having the number 1 pick, it's about 18 spots. But I expect the Ravens to probably not pick 21 in the draft. I think they'll probably pick later on if they make the playoffs and win a couple of games. So now you're talking maybe 7, 10 picks difference and $600,000 against the cap. Like, it's as close to having a free player as it gets.
It was a giveaway.
Yeah.
And let's face it. I mean, there was a reason why, if you're the Chiefs, which one of the highest factors that the Chiefs had on their, I mean, they had about 6 or 7 criteria for acquiring a player. And one of the highest ones, I mean, and you know it because, Andy Reid's mentioned it. Even going back to training camp, Brett Veach had mentioned it. Their conscience about chemistry in that locker room and adding the right player.
Yeah.
So Deontay Johnson, that's now basically blown himself out of 2 different places, pretty good indication. I mean, and And I've had some people that I trust say that, because it's obviously, Pittsburgh doesn't give up on a player like that unless there's a reason.
I mean, they had Antonio Brown around for a while.
Yeah, but eventually they got rid of
Eventually they
Brown
moved
too.
on from him too. But
there's some reliable people that I trust that's say that one of the primary reasons why the Steelers got rid of Deontay Johnson was that they didn't want him around George Pickens, and hey, that says a lot about and if that was the case, I can tell you right now, Chiefs were not in the market because they could have matched that offer. That would not have been hard. To match that offer.
When I saw that, when I heard the draft picks and didn't know what the salary cap was, my initial reaction, without knowing that it was Carolina playing the game of let's have you not be here anymore, as Nick Jacobs would say, and then you hear some of the things out of Pittsburgh that were like, this is going on in Carolina now. Pittsburgh viewed Deontay Johnson as addition by subtraction when they moved on from him. My first thought was, well, the Panthers are not eating any of that salary. The Ravens are taking on that entire salary if that's all it took in draft picks. Then you find out that the Ravens aren't paying anything. I'm like, oh, they wanted him gone. Okay, all right, there it is. They just didn't want him around anymore.
This wasn't even the equivalent of a basket at the supermarket that says free kittens in it. This was an old cat on its last leg.
It was free Panthers.
Free.
It was a kitten. It was a free panther.
It was a free panther.
Just take it.
Free wounded old panther.
Yes. Matt Derrick is our guest. Chief Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. Andy Reid said yesterday, Wanya Morris, they're moving forward with him. There was a question this week of, okay, do they go back to Kingsley? They didn't pull Wanya Morris the way that they did Kingsley in week 2 against the Bengals. They stayed with Wanya Morris. It was one of the more rough games we've seen from a left tackle in a Chiefs uniform. What do you make of the decision for the Chiefs to stay with Wanya Morris? And do you think the leash now becomes even shorter to where if we see that on Monday night against the Bucs, they'll be more willing to go to Kingsley? Or is this an indication that sort of like, no, we're going to play through this with Wanya, that they weren't really willing to play through with Kingsley early on?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it, I think with Kingsley is obviously that they saw the difficulties getting to him mentally, and just things were spiraling. It was like one bad play became another bad play because maybe he was worried about the last bad play. With Wanya, I think that they feel like that mentally he blocks that out, and let's face it, he had one really bad sequence. The rest of the game was, kind of, what it's been like for Wanya. Good moments and bad moments. He had a really bad sequence, about 3 plays that were terrible, and that was a problem. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sugarcoating anything here. But I firmly believe in the camp that, the Chiefs didn't want this to be a shuttling system. They don't want it to be, hey, one guy starting 1 week next and then back and forth. When they made the move, they wanted to get Kingsley right. They want to get him set so that he is fundamentally sound, his technique is sound. The things that he was doing wrong are fixed and corrected, that he's being consistent on the practice field. They feel like that he's mentally ready to go back in there, and they want it to be a good situation. So I wouldn't expect them to. I mean, if Kingsley's first game back, I don't think it's going to be on a Monday night game. I don't think it's going to be in Buffalo. If they made a move, the Denver game would be the time to do it. I mean, if you do it. But I also believe that once they make a move back to Kingsley, it's permanent.
Yeah.
So
no pulling in the middle of the game.
It's no going back and forth. It's like they want him. When they put Kingsley back in there, it's because they believe he's ready to be the left tackle of the future. And and to Andy Heck made this point, when he was last on the podium and everything, was the fact that he compared it to like what they did with Laurent Duvernay-Tardif and Austin Ryder. And I think you could even put, Andrew Wiley in that category. And, even going back further, I mean, Zach Fulton's and everything. I mean, anybody that, struggled, they pulled out and then, put back in, once they went back in, they stayed in. So even if they had some early struggles, lost their starting job, go back, then the second time in, it's like, it's done. I mean, that's when they feel like it's confident that they can stay in there.
Visiting with Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. Speaking of the tackles, Juwan Taylor. I looked up some numbers, so I want to present these numbers. But the question's going to be, do you feel better about Juwan Taylor at the right tackle spot after the last couple of weeks? Or is it a 2-week run to where he's just been playing really well? First of all, no penalties in the last 2 weeks. That's a nice change. But the third highest Pro Football Focus grade came against San Francisco. His 6th highest pass blocking grade came against San Francisco. We know when we saw those next-gen stats and what he did against Max Crosby on Sunday, those are the last 2 weeks for Jawan Taylor. How do you feel about Jawan Taylor? Does it take a few more weeks before you feel really comfortable, no penalties, and maybe having the best back-to-back games in his Chiefs career in a Chiefs uniform? You feeling more comfortable with Jawan Taylor?
Oh, I think you'd have to. I mean, yeah, you want to see consistency, so you want to see it continue, and you don't want to see any backsliding. But no, I mean, this is obviously, last few games has been the best football he's played in a Chiefs uniform.
Yeah.
So I think that gives you a lot of confidence. And I think Jawan is definitely one of those guys that can be a streaky guy. That when he gets into a rhythm, that he's going to give you a lot of good plays in a row. I mean, if he's not getting caught for the early jumps and everything like that, and a lot of times they're not early. I mean, it's just the fact that he's going on the snap count. Everybody else is going on when the ball moves. He's going on the snap count.
It was like he and Max Crosby were having a who can
quicker.
start moving quicker.
Who can jump faster, Yeah. I mean, and
it's like a sprinters when the gun goes off, how they were like sort of in sync, synchronized, movement.
Having a tackle that goes on the snap count like Jawan does is incredibly valuable against a guy like Max Crosby who's doing the same thing and has seen Mahomes enough to know his cadence and knows it and feels pretty confident that, hey, I can jump too. Mm-hmm. And he's got that fast twitch. So, that's incredibly valuable. And so, I mean, and the fact that Jawan's had those 2 games against some really good pass rushers the last couple of games, that's really positive. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be this way the rest of the season, but I think you got to feel pretty confident that if this is just a matter of him finally being comfortable and getting himself right. I mean, there's no reason why this can't last.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, who knows? The bye week does different things, and as you said, consistency is going to be something that we watch with Jawan Taylor. He has 5 penalties in the 2 games heading into the bye. No penalties since then, and 2 of his best games in a Chiefs uniform. So, look, they focused on red zone efficiency, and they've gone 7 of 9 scoring touchdowns in the red zone. And no doubt that Jawan Taylor probably focused on some of the things he needs to improve on. And he goes up against Bosa and Max Crosby and has maybe his best back-to-back games in a Chiefs uniform. Let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Matt Derrick is our guest. Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. What do you think of this matchup on Monday night? And if you have a score in mind for Monday.
This is, to me, a little bit of the Spider-Man all pointing at each other. Because, hey, the Buccaneers are going through the same thing offensively that the Chiefs are. I mean, you lose Mike Evans and you lose Chris Godwin. I mean, what are you? And Baker Mayfield, I mean, give him credit. I mean, I think he threw for 330 yards against the Falcons. I mean, they had some trouble scoring points, which they haven't really had trouble doing this year.
Yeah.
But he managed to make it work. I mean, I don't know how he got 330 yards out of the guys that he has he's throwing the football to right now. I mean,
Otten, Bucky,
Kate
Rashad
Otten is
White.
about it.
Yeah.
I mean, and White's a good receiver too, but I mean, been inconsistent. I mean, and that's probably going to be part of it. Is just can you keep that consistency?
Yeah.
But the 2 things that stand out to me about this game, one is that without those weapons, what are the Bucs, and especially going up against the Chiefs, because Buccaneers don't really run the football real well, so you got to think that the Chiefs defense is going to have a field day as far as stopping Bucky Irving and that backfield and that type. And then the only thing that really and one sub part of that, the only thing that really bothers you is Kate Otten have a big day, because the Chiefs have on occasion struggled against some tight ends.
Yeah.
Now they are also just coming off a game where they just absolutely took out Brock Bowers in the second half, and that's positive. But that's been kind of their one weakness, so it's at least worth at least a small bullet point.
Yeah.
But the second part of it too is that the other side, because Tampa Bay has a very suspect secondary. I mean, they're not a very good pass defense. They've won some games because they got into some shootouts, so they can give up some points. I mean, if you're the Chiefs passing game, this is your opportunity to get right. I mean, this should be a slump buster. If you're the Chiefs, this is the kind of defense that you want to face.
Do you have a score in mind?
I'm tempted to break my policy. I said I'm not going to take a blowout until the Chiefs actually do it. So I'm giving the Bucs probably a touchdown more than I think they deserve, because I think the Chiefs are absolutely going to shut this team down. I'm probably giving Baker a little bit of respect too. And I'm still just giving a little bit of, I'm not sold on the Chiefs offense yet. I mean, until they break out and bust somebody, I'm going to assume that they're going to continue to score 27 points every week. So 27-17 Chiefs.
27-17, they cover the spread. I think it's going to be a double-digit game for the Chiefs, and maybe it's 27-10 that gets to 27-17 like we saw. I know I said that was the last one, but real quick, because I wanted to bring this up, and I skipped right over this bullet point for you. Matt Derrick is our guest. The Texans lose last night, which gives them their third loss. Does 7-3 the rest of the way get the number 1 seed for the Chiefs in these final 10 games?
I think it does.
No matter who, because I think no matter who they lose to, because if they lose to Buffalo, Buffalo then would still have to go undefeated the rest of the way. Or could only lose one game, I should say, the rest of the way. If they, I mean, honestly, November 17th, the number 1 seed could be wrapped up. If the Chiefs beat Buffalo on November 17th, because Houston has to beat the Chiefs and still go undefeated the rest of the way if the Chiefs just go 7-3.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, do you see any team in the AFC going 14-3 except for Kansas City?
No, I don't.
No, I mean, that's about the only team you think is going to make it.
And to add even more to that, like if we say 7-3 gets it done, well, they play Carolina and Las Vegas at home. So that should give you 2 wins. That means against Tampa Bay, Denver, Buffalo, Chargers, Cleveland, Houston, Pittsburgh, and Denver, can they go 5-3? In that stretch, can they go 5-3? And that's no matter who they win or lose to, because I don't see Buffalo only losing 1 game the rest of the way. They've had some issues here or there, and they still have, they still go to Indianapolis. And with Flacco, it's a little bit different than Anthony Richardson. They go to Detroit. They play San Francisco with McCaffrey healthy. So that'll be something that's a difference for San Francisco. And they play Miami this weekend. And it's a healthy Tua, and we'll see what they do. Miami is desperate. Miami's entire season is on the line this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And Kevin Harlan would always say, find me the more desperate team, and that's the team that I think is more likely to pull out the victory this weekend. So can they go 5-3 against those 8 teams? This team that's won 13 in a row?
And I'll be more bold. I'll say if they win 1 of Buffalo, Houston, and Pittsburgh, they'll be the number 1 seed. Although I'll say the one I think that's a guaranteed loss, that's going to be the toughest, is going to be that Pittsburgh game. I mean, on the road, on a weird short week, on Christmas Day.
And luckily,
that's a tough one.
All those teams that play on Christmas Day have the same schedule.
It helps.
So the NFL at least did that right. To where they didn't give one team an advantage, but it is the third of the 3 is a home game for Pittsburgh.
That one advantage in that whole scenario is being at home on Christmas Day.
Yep.
That's a little bit of advantage. Although we obviously saw last year that advantage
great point.
didn't work out real well.
Maybe it's better the Chiefs go on the road and not think about being at home and I've got to leave home to go to this game and we're doing Christmas and everything in the morning and no, you're on the road. You're there Christmas Eve. You're at a hotel there in Pittsburgh. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. Matt, you're the man as always. Appreciate it, sir. Enjoy the football, and we'll talk next week, man.
Can't wait till Monday night.
Oh, yeah. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll hear from the Chiefs coming up later on this hour. Kendall Gammon, Mick Schaefer, Sad Fans, who's lighting it up, all still to come on a Friday edition. It's Sports Radio 810 WHB. Join us about 45 minutes from now. Mick Shea from the 1 o'clock hour. We've got Sad Fans, Raiders edition. We'll see who is lighting it up as well. And we'll hear from the Chiefs coming up in just a little bit. Steve Spagnuolo, Matt Nagy, and Chris Jones eventually. We'll see who all will be there, when they'll be there. And we'll try to bring that to you. Certainly Spags and Nagy, and hopefully Chris Jones as well. But we will be talking with Kendall Gammon coming up about 12:30 or so, and try to mix in as much as we can. With this being the Thursday for the Chiefs, and our Friday, thankfully. Our Friday. You know, next year, Halloween on a Friday, that'll be nice. That'd be nice. Go out trick-or-treating. You can go trick-or-treating next year, Sterling, and
I planned on it.
Really enjoy the night, stay out late, and then be able to sleep in the next day.
Yeah.
You know, it's great, man. It's awesome.
I'll ask for candy.
You should.
Yeah.
As you should.
With my mustache, of course.
That would be weird
really,
if you're just going to be walking around
without
a bunch of kids
mustache,
around with a mustache. And,
it would be weird if I didn't have one.
Asking for candy. From kids or houses?
Both. Why not?
Very good. With that, we'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll hear from we'll take a quick break as catch up on some breaks so we can get the coordinators and press conference in. That's coming up next right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Conferences. I believe they will start with Steve Spagnuolo.
Good morning.
Good afternoon. I'm not sure what time it is. I mean, that could be 15 minutes from now. Who knows? How do we have Steve Spagnuolo if it's not near noon? They've got to bring everybody else in, right? And then get Steve Spagnuolo at like noon, probably. Usually they start with Dave Toub, but Dave Toub not on the list today for coaches to talk. There also is some assistant coaches. There are some assistant coaches that may be at the podium as well, and we'll just have to see when they get there and what time it is for Kendall Gammon, because he's coming up at 12:30. 913-912-4810. Do also want to let everybody know that Sports Radio 810 WHB proud to once again be the official media partner of the American Royal World Series of Barbecue, Kansas Speedway, one of Kansas City's premier events and the largest barbecue contest in the world. Special thanks to our great partners for supporting Pork Radio 810, including Parisi Cafe, AmeriLife Benefits, Greenlight Dispensary, Boulevard Brewing Company, Window Nation, Liberty Fruits, Office Products Alliance, Downtown Marriott, Toner Jewelers, Kansas City Ice, and Hen House. Sports Radio 810 WHB, your hometown station and official sponsor of the American Royal Barbecue. So that is going on tonight. Pork Radio 810 out there tonight.
Always gets me. It always emits a chuckle from me.
Absolutely, as it should. Yeah. We'll be at the Downtown Marriott on Monday.
Yes, we will.
Enjoying Bar Central as they get you set for Monday Night Football. We'll be doing the drawing to win a free 2-night stay at the downtown Marriott. That'll be going on while we're there from 10 to 2. You got to be there present to sign up. They'll have great food and drink specials while we're there, but downtown Marriott, our location on Monday, getting you set for Monday Night Football, Chiefs and Buccaneers.
It's a great spot. It's not a hotel bar.
Yeah.
It's a bar, sports bar that has just a very nice, large hotel around it.
That's exactly right. They built a sports bar, and then they built rooms that you could stay at.
Yeah, just in case if you have too much to drink and you're like, you know what, I don't feel like driving home.
It's like a sports book, but it's a sports bar without the sports book aspect of it.
Imagine going to the sports bar and saying, you know what, I don't really want to Uber home. It's not too much. You know what, I'm thinking I'm just going to get a room here.
Just get a room, man.
You can sleep at the bar, basically.
Yeah, you can. You know what? You absolutely can. You can do that. Dude, you stayed. You left the bar at 8 o'clock in the morning? Yeah, I did. It was a comfortable sleep, though.
You even ripped a nap.
Yeah, it was great, man.
Great, comfy bed and everything.
Yes.
Yeah, lovely.
I slept last night for like an hour and a half. That's not a sleep. That's a nap. You did not go to sleep last night. You took a simple nap.
What's the over under on that? But to make it a sleep versus a nap?
3 hours. 2.5. 2 hours feels like a nap.
Dylan,
I went to sleep. I don't know. I took a nap. It was like 2 hours.
I agree with that.
I was gonna say 4.
4 hours? I think you can sleep for 3 hours. I don't think 3 hour naps, man. That's even kids.
Yeah,
don't
but
take
I ain't
3 hour
ripping a
naps.
3 hours. If I sleep 3 hours, I'm going to be a
I'm
very
not saying
irritable man.
I'm not saying it's a good sleep.
I can make it through a workday on 3 hours. I can't do
You
it on
can?
2 hours. That's what I'm saying. Like if I fell asleep, say 4 a.m. because I couldn't fall asleep, and then had to wake up at 7, I can make that work. But
Yeah.
I don't,
And then when you get home, you'll crash.
and I don't take a nap for 3 hours though.
Right.
It's more like
Even-
1.5, 2.
Yeah.
even
that's a good call.
even kids don't take naps unless they're like newborns. Then they're not really napping. They're just they're sleeping and waking up every once in a while. It's like,
That's off time for the parents as well. So.
Right. It's like, no, the newborn is napping. No, the newborn is just being a newborn. It'll wake up every once in a while and eat and cry and poop or whatever, and then it'll go back to sleeping. Here's Matt Nagy.
DeAndre for a little while now. What can bring to you guys, and what have you maybe been impressed by in just this short amount of time?
Probably the biggest thing for me, I'm impressed with just his ability to pick up the offense. He's done a great job. Came in last week and wanted to do as much as he possibly could. We knew we had to keep a little bit of an eye on how much we could give him on somewhat of a short week. But he's been great. Love his attitude. Super smart. Really football understands. Obviously the football part on the field within the plays is easy for him because he's played so much. Just taking what we do and implementing it into that is where I think he's excelled.
Matt, what challenges do you feel like you have with Vita Vea in the run game?
Well, he's a heck of a football player, man. Just can play, the A gap and B gap at the same time. Physically strong. Pass game when he's there and he gets his hands on you, it's going to be tough to get away. So just have a lot of. He puts stress on you as an offensive line. We have a lot of faith in our guys, but he's a hell of a player.
Matt, what stands out about your execution on third downs against the Raiders?
Probably the biggest thing is guys were where they needed to be, and then Pat used his legs. If conceptually, if something wasn't there, he's able to use his legs as a weapon. So I want to, the guys have been great with that. I try to keep things as simple as possible so they can play fast, but Pat's legs have certainly been a part of it.
Coach, there's been 3 straight games of 20-plus carries for Kareem. How much of that is by design based on personnel or what Pat's seeing, what the defense has given you in a sense?
There's probably a lot of it with design. Kareem's been doing this for a long time. I know we kind of started off this year with the whole shot thing and Kelsey not getting open and different ways of trying to figure out the identity of this offense. I think we're sort of coming into one here with the amount of carries that he's getting. There's not necessarily a ton of explosives per se, but one thing it's doing is it's allowing us to stay ahead of the sticks on third down, to his point. We're able to be efficient and not getting a third and long. I think it all kind of ties together. We had a couple long drives last week with a 19 play and a 13 play. So it's been good for us.
Matt, are you able to separate how much of your running game is due to what he's doing, his specific skill set, and how much of it is everybody else around him?
I don't know if we've gotten too far into that as far as what the separation is of the two. I mean, he's a physical ball carrier that does not lose yards when he touches the football. I mean, he's always gaining yards. So instead of 2nd and 11. And we talked about it last week. We say yes for 4, he gets you 5. You know that you're going to get positive yards with Kareem, and I think then what we want to do is make sure we're doing what he does well. And then let's look at the offensive line too. Like what are those guys on the offensive line? What do they do well? And I think we found some things that we like without getting into specifics schematically, and we want to just keep kind of rolling with that.
And Matt, Pat said yesterday, statistically he's not where he normally is, but he says when you win, it's okay. I just wondered if you've seen things from him kind of behind the scenes or in games where maybe he's doing team first things, even if it's not helping his particular stats.
Sure. I would say this to the stats and the first of all, we all know winning is most important. We all get that. We want to be able to put up points, protect the football. Those are like the bigger goals. Pat never once, even when he's throwing 50 touchdowns a season, never talked about it. It doesn't get talked about now statistically. I do understand, and we all understand the importance of being able to have the fireworks and the big plays and this, et cetera. We want that. But right now there's a little bit of a recipe on how things are going, and we're winning. But at the same time, we want to lock in on ball security, protecting the football. We got a phenomenal defense, being great in the red zone situationally, third down. And then for him specifically, I think we probably focus in a little bit more on his technique, whether it's footwork, timing, accuracy, all that goes together. Now, we go out now and just try to put up points, and I think when you do that and you keep winning, now when you win and all those scoring and great defense comes together, it's magical. So we want to try to get to that.
How fun is that for you guys to have, like, Kelsey seems to be the same way. He had a lot of catches last week, but winning and legacy, these are the things these guys talk about. You've been around the league for a long time. That's not always the case with some players. Some players
sure.
Give me stats, give me all this. How good is that for you guys to have those veteran guys show that attitude to everyone else?
Refreshing, and I think it goes to show, again, it starts at the top with Coach Reed and Brett Veach, the type of players you bring in. Now, Pat and Kels have been here a long time. What happens is other guys see that, and when you see that and you feel that and you live it on the sideline when maybe there's not a great fantasy number game for somebody, but we win, in the locker room, everybody's celebrating the same way. They're not pouting because we won and I had one catch for 12 yards. We don't have that on this team. As a coach, I can't tell you how refreshing that is. And again, it starts with those guys. They understand what's most important, and they're looking for they want the team rings and trophies, because that's how people remember you. They don't remember the fantasy numbers, when you don't win, honestly. What's important to them is winning football games and winning trophies and championships and rings.
Last three, we're going to go Vahe, Pete, and then Matt.
Matt, you guys always have to adapt during the season to whatever you set out to do, and just the flux of the game. How, I don't know if extreme is the right word, but how pronounced has that been this season in terms of where you started in camp, what you thought the points of emphasis would be versus what you've been doing now? Yeah,
it's probably carried on. I mean, some of the injuries are a part of that, but you look across the league right now, and every team's kind of going through that. So how do you adjust to that? And our guys have had the right mindset of being able to stay prepared. I think what's very important in this process is, because of these injuries and guys are seeing it, or maybe there's somebody that doesn't get called up that maybe thought they would, stay prepared, because your time will come. And there's just a positive environment in our building, and it's always been that way. And so when you look at, now winning helps, that's great. But when you're winning and you're finding different ways to win in all three phases, it makes things a lot easier. Practices are fast, they're great, the tempo is good. Schematically for us, it's, there's going to be adjustments, but for us, I think we're where we want to be. We'd like to maybe have a few more explosives here or there, but as long as we're winning, we just want to make sure that doesn't deodorize what we can be better at.
You mentioned the fireworks and the explosives. How much do you think there could be a correlation between DeAndre's impact and involvement and what Xavier Worthy that might mean for Worthy and his potential?
I think it all works together. If you have, just deep threat guys, that then teams know that. If you have guys that are just underneath, teams know that. So being able to kind of do different things with those guys, it allows us to be more flexible conceptually in what we do. And then just trying to figure out each week. These defenses right now, I think we're at the peak level right now of these defensive schemes and coordinators or what they're doing. We're going to see one this weekend with Coach Todd Bowles. I was my dad coached him in high school. I know him well, and I coached with him in Philadelphia. His schemes are phenomenal, And no matter what you hear about numbers-wise with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, it's a good defense that does great stuff. And so we just got to be prepared for this week against the Bucs and worry about how that happens. And I think that's probably our biggest challenge.
Last one, Matt.
Yesterday, Coach mentioned sticking with Wanye for now at the left tackle spot. In like the last 5-6 weeks, what have you seen from Kingsley as far as how he's progressing, coming along? And, is there a point that you could see going back to Kingsley at some point this season?
Well, I'll leave that last part up to Coach. I'll be a part of that, but leave that up to him, that decision-wise. I think Wanye has it's stood. Obviously, there's a couple penalties here or there that he had last week, and we know that. He knows that. Kingsley has been great in practice, which is really what he needs to do right now, is be great when he's running, look team or getting any first team reps with us. Be solid there, be strong, and then they should continue to push each other and be great. And so I think it's for us just understanding who they are, what they do, how they go about it, and we have full faith in both of them.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep, no problem. See you.
All right, there's Matt Nagy. We'll hear, I believe, from Steve Spagnuolo coming up next. Talking about DeAndre Hopkins, what he's been impressed with is his ability to pick up the offense as quickly as he has. One of the things that I thought was pretty interesting there, talking about Kareem Hunt and his 20 carries in 3 straight games, saying that that's more by design, that, Kareem's built like that. But, things you wanted to do in the preseason or training camp when it was, throwing the ball deep or different things, it's like, finding an identity. He said we're kind of coming into one now. We're getting into good third down situations, and that's sort of interesting that he's saying that this is now their identity, that they're finding the identity now that Kareem Hunt's on the team. What's that do when Pacheco comes back? If this is the identity that you're growing into now and what's becoming more comfortable, and the 20 carries, 3 straight games, 20 or more, is more by design and not game flow, that's pretty fascinating.
Well, I think you just insert Pacheco back in. You run a little bit of a split there, and they're similar but different enough. Pacheco's a slightly, I don't want to say boom or bust, but he is a little more explosiveness than Kareem. Kareem is not going to go back where he's going to get you that consistent 3 or 4 yards, stay ahead of the chains. You can still bring that physicality, though, with Pacheco.
Yeah, for sure, because he is a pretty physical guy as well. So we'll hear from Steve Spagnuolo here in just a little bit, maybe even Dave Merritt or Joe Cullen. Always good to hear from Joe Cullen, football guy with his voice. But Dave Merritt and Joshua Uche, I feel like they need to decide who's the best when it comes to voice acting between those two. You're listening to Sports Radio 810 WHB Kansas City on this Friday edition. So we'll see who comes up. Chris Jones eventually at some point, too. So we're going to have Spags here in just a little bit, and then Dave Merritt, Brendan Daly, and Joe Cullen. I almost said John Daly. Now that would be
electric. If you told me John Daly was going to, and maybe he's even talking with the Chiefs, that would be fun.
Be awesome, man. But Spags here in just a little bit.
Gosh, now I want John Daly. I really want John Daly to come up to the podium. That'd be electric.
Also, veterans that care about winning and not necessarily their stats. Matt Nagy called it refreshing. That's there. That sometimes you're not having a good fantasy football day. But are you winning? And that's what this Chiefs team has done. And the veterans, certainly Mahomes hasn't had a great fantasy football day many times this year. Only a couple games where he's had multiple touchdown passes. So,
even Travis Kelce, really.
Yeah. I mean, Kelce had his first touchdown of the season this past weekend, I do think there's a chance, though, for some good fantasy football days, good fantasy football day on Monday, because the Buccaneers' pass defense is pretty rough.
Yeah, not ideal.
It's pretty rough, and the Chiefs should be able to take advantage of that.
Should and will, though. Those are always
that's absolutely right.
Vastly different
Right.
things.
And that defense for the Chiefs should be able to slow down the running game. Rashad White with a homecoming. That's pretty cool. And, we'll see what they do with that. Bucky Irving not practicing yesterday, but he also didn't practice last week until Friday was limited from the toe injury that he hurt against the Ravens. People remember Mike Evans and Chris Godwin getting hurt against the Ravens, but Bucky Irving also messed up his toe, in which Todd Bowles said it's just going to have to be a year-long thing that we manage.
I did not know, by the way, Rashad White went to center.
Yeah, KCK.
Yeah, didn't know that.
But Bucky Irving hurt his toe against the Ravens, didn't practice last week, Wednesday, Thursday, limited on Friday, then played. And I think that's probably – so I'm not reading into anything that Bucky Irving didn't practice yesterday or today. because that's what they did last week, and he played the whole game.
Yeah.
And Todd Bowles saying this is probably what we're going to have to do to manage him the rest of the season because it's going to be a season-long thing. So I expect White and Irving to be out there in the backfield, and for those guys to get a lot of targets along with Kate Otten.
Yeah, and Baker Mayfield was still good last week, even without Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. I mean, Kate Otten's now a guy. Jalen McMillan's getting thrown into the mix now. Sterling Shepard.
Yeah.
But they do use those running backs, White and Irving, a ton out of the backfield as pass catchers because they're not effective running the football, which almost takes away the Chiefs' best attribute so far this season. It's if they're not going to run, that run defense becomes a wash.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we'll see what that pass did, which means it should be plenty of opportunities for Joshua Uche.
Yeah.
Against Baker Mayfield. Again, he threw the ball 50 times.
You're going to need that because Najee Johnson concussed. We'll
Hopefully,
see.
Najee didn't practice yesterday.
Why did I sound like Chris Collinsworth there? I was like, well, Tony Romo, I don't know, Jim.
This guy, stop it. Stop it, Mike. This
I don't
guy.
know, Jason. Who's going to be CB2?
Tony. Stop it, Patrick. This guy, Mike. Come on.
I'd really like Spags or someone to come in.
It's weird because opposing teams on Sad Fans that I read through with Reddit, opposing teams really don't like Chris Collinsworth or Tony Romo when they do Chiefs games. It's weird. It's a lot of love for Patrick Mahomes. You know?
I've always liked Collinsworth.
Not
and
as
Romo,
much
but-
love, I guess, for their quarterback that particular game.
Well, maybe the quarterback isn't that good.
Well, that's also part of that could certainly be part of the equation. Should be factored in, but that doesn't matter. It's just, what a great incomplete pass by Patrick Mahomes. This guy, look at that incomplete pass.
Yeah, when
Come
Brady
on,
was
he threw
doing
away.
that too. Yeah.
Stop it, Mike. Stop it, Patrick.
Yeah, he threw an incomplete pass, and Brady's like, "That's just a smart incomplete."
Exactly. Oh, yeah.
And you're like, "Okay."
It's a lot of that after the
Yeah.
which game was that? That was San Francisco.
Yeah.
It's 49ers. There was a lot of that on Reddit from the 49ers fans. Like Brock Purdy
I get
completes a pass. Oh, lucky from Brock Purdy. Patrick Mahomes throws an incomplete pass. What a great decision. Great pass by Patrick Mahomes throwing that thing incomplete there. And I'm like, he wasn't really wrong. There was a completion that Brock Purdy had that Tom Brady was like, yeah, not really placed where you want it to be.
Yeah.
And Patrick Mahomes threw the incompletion.
Yeah, it's a great incomplete.
He was like, what a good
great incomplete. Yeah, smart.
I'm like,
astute.
No, I could see where that would be annoying if I was an opposing fan base. Just as some Yankees fans had the audacity to say that Bob Costas hates the Yankees during that broadcast with the Royals. Oh, yeah, there was some of that on Twitter. Like, it's obvious Bob Costas cannot stand doing Yankees
Was it the
games.
two dudes that get kicked out because
Probably.
they're just,
Probably.
Yeah.
Here's Spags.
Even though it's 7 minutes fast, I got it right. All right, here we go. Another challenge. I keep waiting for a game when I'll put the film on and it's not a top offense we're playing. These guys are good. I'm really impressed with the three backs. The quarterback's playing really good. I know all about the injuries at wideout, but I think all of a sudden what happened is they got a lot more speed out there with some of these young guys. So this will be a challenge. And with that, I'll open it up.
Generally speaking, just the crew that's rotating, replacing Jalen, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, we had so Josh and Najee both went in there. We'll find out where we're at with Najee as the week goes on. I thought there were some really good downs. I thought Najee tackled well a couple times. And then Josh had to go in there. We had the one penalty, so we'd like to get rid of that. But I think both those guys can probably play better, and I think they'd tell you that. Yeah.
What kind of role do you see for Uche?
Yeah, Josh.
Sunday and then
Going beyond, I'm not sure what'll happen this Sunday. I mean, it's quick, but Joe and Terry are doing the best they can to get him up to date on the things we're doing. We just went through a walkthrough there, and he got involved in it, so that's good. We'll see where we're at, but hopefully we get some edge rush out of him. I know he's a good football player. A lot of good things about him. All the research we did. Mike Dana played with him. I remember talking to Mike about him as a teammate, and everything came back positive. So, keep our fingers crossed and be hopeful.
have you had a guy with that kind of skill set since you've been here? Is there a comparison you can?
I'm not sure I have a real good beat on the exact skill set. I mean, I know what I see, right? So maybe after I have a little feel for it, but he's built like all those good football players up there in New England, and he was well coached. Bill having him for those number of years, so I think that's a plus. And then we'll just see what kind of talents we can use in him and mix him in with the rest of the guys.
How have you felt about your pass rush when you're not blitzing up to this point?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we know what Chris gives us, and then I thought George came on a little bit last week. I mean, Turk's been really good inside. I think he's given us some really, and again, it's you guys know how I am. It's not all about sacks. It's how we affect the quarterback, whether it's pushing a lineman into him and getting him off the spot, whether it's knocking a ball down or getting a hit and not necessarily a sack. So I think we'd all like to be a little bit better in a lot of areas. That might be one of them, but hopefully we do that. Hopefully we do that.
Steve, your run defense has been good. I mean, how much do you feel like your edges have factored into that aspect?
Yeah, guys on the edge like the DNs we're talking about, Leo. And our linebackers have done a really good job at triggering real quick in the run game. It begins up front with our guys, but when your linebackers can trigger like that, you can get a double team off a D lineman quicker, and then they become more effective. And I think our secondary, Dave and Donald do a great job with those guys. I think we have a secondary that's willing to tackle in the run game and get involved, and we're preaching it all the time, and they've bought in. I was just talking to the production team there before I came in, and they asked about that same thing with how our DBs play. And I think some of that was established. I go back to, Tyrann Mathieu when he first got here, LJ, in the way LJ played physically. And I think all the guys that come in and you see that, sometimes players in this league don't listen to coaches as much as they would just observe what the guys in front of them are doing. And I think having guys like that here prior has helped us become that way on the back end.
Couple more.
Steve, what challenges do you think a tight end like Cade Otton presents?
Yeah, just like last week. I mean, I thought last week we had a challenge with that tight end. It'll be the same this week. When you put the tape on of last week's game, when they now don't have the two receivers, I think his targets and ticks went up, so we'll be aware of that. But I think anytime you get that kind of a talented tight end, it presents some problems.
Baker Mayfield, you mentioned him a little while ago. What have you seen from him this year?
Yeah.
Wherever he ends up,
It's like he's perfect in the system. I think they're doing great things with the guys they got. I see a guy that's getting the ball out really quick and on time. I see a guy that before the ball is snapped, I think he realizes what he has, and he knows right where he's going with the ball. Like, I don't see a lot of off schedule, I can't go there, I got to get there. And we know he's athletic enough to do that. But I think he's just been really efficient, especially on first and second down. And then number one, and third down, by the way. So he's doing something right there, too. But I just think he's been really, really efficient in the pass game on first and second down.
Nate?
Steve, just when we had the quad injury during training camp, just anything that you've noticed from him as the season's progressed?
Justin Reed?
Yeah. You guys are also using him quite a bit, both in the box and at free safety.
Nah, he's gotten better and better. What I always see with him is how he relates with all the other guys back there. I think he's a great leader. I mean, he does things out of this building that a lot of us don't see for the camaraderie of the back end guys in a real. Like I hear, because it comes back, Justin did this for those guys last night, or they had this, or whatever, and I think that's great. Not everybody does that. That's because he's unselfish and he cares about the team and the guys he plays with. And he's been on the field. He's been one of our aggressive guys. When I was talking about I think he heads that up, and he was here with LJ, and he was like that before he got here. So he just kind of carried it in here as well.
We'll go last two here.
Steve, as you went back in the film and rewatched the goal line stand with the guys, like what kind of things were you pointing out?
Yeah, 11 guys that were all jacked up to keep them out of the end zone. That was pretty. Started up front, and then the linebackers, and then every DB was involved. I mean, every white jersey. That was gutty. I was proud of those guys when they did that.
What's the process for you when you're making a trade on defense at this point in the year? When do you get involved as far as whether it's giving your opinion on it, watching film?
Yeah. Well, Brett's great in that he's so collaborative. Sometimes it's rare in these kind of businesses, and he's always bouncing things off. Like, that wasn't the only name he's come in, and then it may be somebody we as coaches know about or don't know about. If we need to learn a little bit more, you try to throw some tape on. And what Brett's great at is he gives us enough of a heads up that we got some time to kind of look at it and research. And then he kind of takes it from there. Him and Coach Reed. And, listen, I think he's great. He's done done a great job here, and hopefully this move we made here we'll all be happy about and give us a little extra. All right, we'll see.
Thanks, Coach.
Good, yeah.
All right, there's Steve Spagnuolo. So what were the other names, Steve? Joshua Uche, he wasn't the only name that Brett Veach came to me when we talked about. What was the other name? The names that are out there that maybe we're talking about. The names maybe out there. But it's interesting. He said when he was asked about Joshua Uche, and he said, as I was doing my research on him before we got him. Which I think is what led to Matt Derrick saying, at the end, hey, what's that process like?
Yeah.
Because typically Andy just says Veach handles all that.
Yeah. Typically.
Maybe he doesn't. Here's Joe Colin.
Beautiful day here, getting ready for a really good practice for Tampa Bay on Monday night. And with that, I'll leave it up to you guys for the questions.
So your guys' run defense has been really good this year. When you look back at the offseason, was that something you guys talked a lot about trying to improve in?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Spags has always talked about improving the run defense, and really when we talked about it, it was really from the end of the Super Bowl on, and I thought, as the playoffs progressed last year, we did a good job with that, but we wanted to come out of the gates like that, but really when you're stopping the run, it takes all 11, and I think guys are buying in, we're tackling well, guys are playing technique, whatever Coach Spags calls, the guys are executing it to the best of their ability, and we just got to keep that going.
What's your first impressions and thoughts on Joshua Uche?
Oh, I've studied Josh when he was at Michigan and watched him play at New England, but he's been a good addition that, Brett Veach and his staff and Coach Reed brought to the group. So he's been working hard and doing everything he can, and excited to, have him in the group.
He seemed very excited when we talked to him yesterday about coming to this place. You guys have had so much success. When someone comes in the middle of the season, is that the feeling you get from them, that like this is a special place and they're, maybe you don't want to be traded because you were where you were, but if you're coming here, give them a little extra energy?
Well, I would think, I know when I came, I had a little extra energy, but, when you come to a place like this, from our owner to Coach Reed, Brett Veach, Spags, Nags and Coach Tobe, it's an unbelievable environment, and the record speaks for itself. So when you come here, maybe it's a breath of fresh air from where you've been, I don't know, and it's an opportunity with a guy like Pat Mahomes as your quarterback and Spags as your defensive coordinator, whatever it may be. And so I think he's excited to have an opportunity to play with a guy like Chris Jones in the room, Mike Dana, who was his college teammate, and just the room that we have, and obviously playing for Coach Spags.
You mentioned a couple of times Chris Jones, a problem for everyone who they have to try to block him. He maybe doesn't have all the sacks that he might want to have, even though he told us he doesn't care about personal numbers. We know he does a little bit. When you grade him out, with your internal grading, how good has he been for you guys this year? Oh,
he's been as disruptive as he's ever been. He's not only playing the pass really well, but he's really physical inside in the run game and taking up 2, sometimes 3 blockers. But he's really having a fantastic year.
How impressed have you been with the depth behind Chris inside of the Turks and Mike Pennell and that group?
Oh, that whole group. When you look at Turk, where he's come from, he's doing a great job. Mike Pennell, Derek Noddy, Marlon, who we got from Philadelphia. We have a really deep group, and the guys are really working hard. And and Coach Spags wants guys rolling. When guys are in there, they're starters. And I've been impressed with the way the guys have been playing.
Nate, and then we'll do a couple more.
Joe, how much of the week is about you and Chris discussing where he might move in certain matchups to maybe get a one-on-one? And I guess what's it like for you to watch him go through the game and sort of try to find his one-on-ones if he's switching positions right before, the ball is snapped, essentially?
There are certain things, like I said, the chess match, and Coach Spags does a great job, hey, where do you want to put him? What do you want to do? This is where we can put him. So we decide all that, but it's really an opportunity. He has an opportunity to win on certain plays, all 5 spots on the line of scrimmage, and there are certain ones where he's delegated to a spot on the line of scrimmage. So, obviously that's decided as you go through the week, see the opponent that you're playing, and maybe who would try to exploit, but it's a weekly deal.
Who does that remind you most of, whether it's someone you coached previously in your career or just watching other guys throughout the league who have that amount of flexibility, freedom, and obviously some responsibility to it.
Well, when you look at it, it's within the scheme, and Coach Spags does, like I said, a great job with that. And Chris is good at defensive player. I know I'm being biased in the league, but that I've coached some good ones, and he has that unique ability to go outside and beat a tackle or stay inside and beat a guard. Not many can do that. You have some ends that can do that, but not many true defensive tackles, can go outside and beat an offensive tackle.
Matt?
What's kind of your role in a timeline when you're making an in-season trade, as far as when Brett may bring up a name and talk to you, and you can kind of contribute?
No, I think when you look at it, and not necessarily Josh, but other guys, but you might have done them in the past. You might have did them in the off season as you're attacking free agency, so you have a familiarity with the player. But Brett does a great job. He'll go to, if he's looking at a guy, Coach Spags or the position coach, and get your opinion, and he does a great job of that.
Thanks, Coach.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, there's Joe Colin, football guy. I can listen to Joe Colin talk. You get Spags, good morning, good afternoon, and then defensive line coach. It's up to you. Just ask the questions, guys. Uche coming in, and they're still getting familiar with him. I think both Steve Spagnuolo and Joe Colin talking about the same thing, that hey, gets in here, practice, see what we have, see what his skill set is, what he brings to the table, but done research on him, know that he's well coached in New England, and know that he's a guy that can certainly help out with this team. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. There's going to be a little bit of a break here. I think we'll hear from Dave Merritt coming up on the other side. So we'll take a break as they take a little break. More Zone coming up next. hour. Sad fans, Raiders, and we'll see who is lighting it up as well. We've heard from Steve Spagnuolo and Matt Nagy. We've heard from Joe Cullen, the defensive line coach, especially the interest there with Joshua Uche being the newest member of the Kansas City Chief. And it seemed like Joe Cullen and Steve Spagnuolo offered sort of the same commentary about, we'll see, getting used to him, seeing what he offers. You know, we saw on film what he can do, but how does that translate to what we want him to do? How does it translate to the scheme that we're running? And so we'll see. Hopefully he is going to be playing on Monday night. Steve Spagnuolo said that he's not sure about that, but we'll see. Here's Dave Merritt.
A couple weeks ago, you had a couple rookies with their first picks, right? That's fun.
Yeah.
Next week, I think Chris got a penalty. I mean, just what's that like coaching those guys through that high stuff and then the low stuff?
Same way that we raise our children. You have the highs and lows, and sometimes they will disappoint you, and it's disappointing to see the penalties. But yet you're so happy for the young man when they have success and with the interceptions. And so just trying to help them to just understand that you have to just play within the framework of the defense and what's called for you to do as far as the technique. But some of the plays that happen out on the field, they can be corrected. And so we have to correct them and make sure that they understand a better way to do it the next time.
In training camp, Joshua Williams just talked about being a little bit more consistent in good plays and bad plays. From your standpoint, how is he coming along, especially now when he may have to play a bit more?
Yeah, the one thing that happened with Josh when Jalen was playing, Watson was playing a lot, I told Josh to stay ready. And so your time is going to come, and sure enough, it came in a way that we unexpected it to come. But Josh is one of those young men who he works better when you give him more reps in practice, probably like 90% of our locker room. Once you give them more reps and they get more comfortable, they can go out and execute what we're asking them to do. And so, but I think what's going to happen with Josh, because he's played a lot of football. You guys remember when he went in the game for L.J. Snead, Cincinnati game, after, 4 or 5 plays. And the kid continued to play well the rest of the Super Bowl run. So 2 years of experience, postseason, the kid has been in there, so I'm not going to skip a beat. I trust him, and I believe that he's going to do well.
Dave, what were you saying from Chris Roland Wallace in practice that allowed you to enhance his role?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Chris does is you're able to tell Chris verbally what you want without necessarily having to walk through it, and he can compute it and understand and go out and perform it. And so when you find a young man who's cerebral like that, who's able to understand it not only just through walkthroughs or through reps in practice, you want to try to put that guy out on the field, because he's going to be able to see things. He's going to play with more instincts versus a guy that you're having to explain every single role, every single step. They're not going to be your more instinctive guys. And so Roland is a very instinctive young man, and happy to have him.
Dave, was there a moment with him when you first got here, OTAs or camp or whatever, that you said, okay, he's not maybe our normal undrafted guy coming in here?
Yep, sure did.
So he was a little more?
Yeah, so when he came in, and great question, when he came in and we had him at the nickel spot / corner, and then when we moved him to the safety position, and when he had to learn the free, the strong, and the nickel, and he did it without blinking an eye, and it's one of those situations that it's just uncommon. Shamari Connors had to do a little bit of nickel and safety. But when you're having to do safety, nickel, and learn corner, and that's what that young man did for us, and he was able to pick up the defense. And so learning it from the safety perspective, which I call those guys the quarterback of the defense, then down to the nickel perspective, which is a starter in the NFL, as we know. And then, of course, going out to the corners, not trying to slate them. But the young man was able to pick up and understand the techniques that we were asking him to perform. And as he was doing that, we just saw again instinctively he was making plays within the defense and playing with proper leverage, which helped us out.
Last one, anyone? Nick?
Yeah, right. Dave, when you count the Bucs passing offense on there on tape, what do you see? What stands out about them right now?
I see a quarterback who is quick in his decision. He knows exactly where he wants to go with the ball, And so when you look at their offense, I mean, this is the number one third down team in the league. And that's what I stood up in front of the defense today, and I talked to everyone about that. This team is spearheaded by their quarterback, and the quarterback does a good job of getting them in and out of plays. And with his legs, being able to extend plays. And so really the offensive scheme, I think the offensive coordinator has done a great job of putting them in motions and adjustments that defense will have to make on the sideline, which can be confusing sometimes. And so, but if you can try to simplify it, if they're doing a lot, just try to simplify what you do, and hopefully, guys can play faster.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.
I just hear Dave Merritt. I feel like at any second he'll just start going into my first, my last, my everything. Anybody else? Feel like just from time to time he'll just walk in and just start getting into a little Barry White. He and Josh Boucher maybe can compete with that. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and by the way, the younger defensive backs, like raising your kids. Just like raising your kids. They're going to disappoint you, but then they're also going to make you proud. And the penalties are disappointing. Interceptions make them proud. Man, you're more likely to disappoint them than make them proud.
Yeah, wow.
How many interceptions do you have versus how many penalties? That's a tough grade.
parents.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Boy, Trent McDuffie is really,
yeah, I mean,
not
he's had
doing well.
he's had infinity more percentage of penalties than he has interceptions. I mean, it's like infinity to 1 or the penalties to interceptions for McDuffie. He needs to be better. He needs to be
to none.
Well, yeah, that's what would make it infinity. But you're right. But that's it would hopefully he makes Dave Merritt proud soon. But keeps disappointing him. Tough grading scale. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Kendall Gammon, we'll talk with him. He always makes us proud. We hang out with Kendall Gammon coming up next.
He has a different view of the world. Maybe because he spent 15 years looking at it upside down. He knows exactly how many times the ball will rotate on a long snap, and he'll juggle anything you throw at him. It's Kendall Gammon in the Zone. Brought to you by Crown Toyota and Crown Volkswagen. Recognized as the #1 place to buy a new or pre-owned vehicle. Visit crownautomotive.com to see the latest deals. Experience the Crown difference.
That's right. Time to talk with Kendall Gammon here in the Zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll talk with Mick Schaefer coming up at 1 o'clock. Sad Fans, Raiders Fans Edition. We'll see who is lighting it up in the cuts before the show is over. But Kendall Gammon, presented by Crown Toyota and Crown Volkswagen, joining us. Kendall, what's up, man? How are you, sir?
I'm doing very good. Yourself, Jason?
I am doing just fine. I felt bad for you on Sunday afternoon, roughly 6:15 or so, 6:20. And the reason I felt bad is on the show last week, you had the Chiefs winning 27-13.
Oh, yes, I know.
And the Raiders scored a garbage time touchdown to make it 27-20. Because if they hadn't done that, Kendall Gammon's 27-13.
Right,
yes, I felt bad. I was like, oh, no, they scored. Kendall's nailing it right now.
My shine was dashed.
Yeah, that's right. What did you do with the rest of your night? I mean, did you cry? I mean, just go to sleep? I mean, I have no idea what that might be like to be so close to the exact score, whether that matters or not. But you were spot on, though. Outside of a garbage time touchdown, it was essentially the score that you thought it would be.
Yeah, you asked what I did. I just sat in the corner, spun a plate, and stared at it. That's pretty much it.
Kendall Gammon, our guest. This Chiefs team is 7-0. What did you make from the Raiders win? What did you take away from that? I know that you got the score incredibly wrong, but what did you take from the Chiefs getting that win and moving on and remaining undefeated?
Well, I know it's 27-20, but again, to me, it wasn't really in doubt, even though they did have to recover the onside kick to go ahead and ice it. But to me, the game was never in doubt, even when it was a little bit closer, or when the Raiders, they might have had at one point, I think. I'm not remembering for sure, but it seemed like it was a team and the Raiders that were playing on a little bit of emotion, maybe had a chip. I think it clearly, somebody been in the locker room and talking with them and letting them know that nobody thinks you have a chance, which is really where it was at. But probably that thing that came to mind for me was, and I don't know if it's not a silly thing, but I just started noticing Kareem Hunt wearing down a little bit. He's not, right now, if you need 1 or 2 yards, he'll get you 3. If you need 4 or 5 yards, he's going to get you 3. I mean, he's having a rough time, I think, and I'm not getting on him. I just think all these carries and these games are building up a little bit.
It's interesting because Matt Nagy was asked about that, and one of my observations was, wondering if he was starting to wear down since he didn't have a preseason and, wasn't in training camp, that, he comes here to Kansas City and gets all those carries. He gets a week off to sort of recover, and he's played these last couple of weeks after, having a bye. But, it is a lot of carries right away. And Matt Nagy was asked if this is more by design that he has 3 consecutive games with 20 or more carries, or is it sort of game flow? And it's just happened in the game where it's like, you know what, this is what the defense is giving us. This is what we're staying with. Our defense is this good. So let's keep pounding the rock with Kareem Hunt. And it was a little surprising to me because I thought it would be game flow, but he said a lot of it is by design. That Kareem Hunt's built like that, and they've been giving him the ball. That was a little bit of a surprise to me to hear that Kareem Hunt carrying it 20-plus times, 23, 27 times in a game is more by design than just, hey, this is how the defense is approaching it. This is how we'll approach it. Unless they get out of it, they're not. We're going to keep pounding it between the tackles.
Yeah, no, I agree completely, and I heard that as well, and it did make sense. I think it shows also that if you don't get behind the chains with Patrick Mahomes, your chance of staying on the field and getting the first down are so much better. Not that they're that bad, even when it is first or third and long, but I mean the fact that they have that 19-play drive just amazing to me, and I mean it just goes on and on and on. The different things. I think a little bit, it speaks to a little bit, I think you and Sterling have talked about it a little bit, I think they see some running backs coming back soon, and they know they can go after it with Kareem because that ratio of runs is going to probably lessen up here sooner than later as they get running backs back, I would think. But, that's one thing. I know we're going to turn to this week's game here soon, but, going back and looking at that game, I was amazed and shouldn't have been, though, that Hopkins got that third pass, a pretty important third down conversion. Loved what he did, even though it was, I say, just 2 catches. He played many more plays than I would have thought. I would have lost that bet.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have taken the under if you'd have said 31.5% because I think he played 32. So 31.5% over under. I'm going to pound the under. I am going to put a lot of money on the under. And he had a number of third down packages and red zone plays and things like that. But certainly that is encouraging, right, Kendall, that he's out there after 3 days in the building, that he's playing a third of the snaps against the Raiders after being, in town for 5 minutes learning the offense.
Yeah, I think that speaks to a lot of different things. Number one, he's been in the league a long time, so he understands it. We obviously know he has special talents. I know everybody says, he's not the same player he was a couple of years ago, 5 years ago. Granted, to a degree, but he's not been playing, as he said, meaningful games. And I think you will see his play even pick up this game. And as we go forward, I couldn't be more excited about him and what he can do because, to me, he just plucks the ball out of the air. And I'm not getting on any receivers that we've had in the past, but he's a different cat. There's no doubt.
Visiting with Kendall Gammon, he's presented by Crown Toyota and Crown Volkswagen. The other part of Matt Nagy's answer with the question about Kareem Hunt was that they are sort of coming into an identity that preseason and taking their chances down the field and throwing the deep pass and stretching the field and Travis Kelce in the middle of the field and now with Kareem Hunt and a lot of this by design is that they're finding their identity, which is allowing them to get into good third down situations. But the identity part to me is sort of what stood out because the Chiefs' identity under Patrick Mahomes has never really been we're going to out-physical you. And how many times in the past, Kendall, have we heard opposing teams go, well, we'll just get physical with the Chiefs. Well, we're just going to, be the more physical team against the Chiefs. And defensively, they are not getting out-physicaled by the other team. They're the ones that are stopping the run, controlling the line of scrimmage, being the physical players, even the defensive backs coming up and making tackles. And now offensively, Matt Nagy saying their identity they're developing is a team that's going to be handing it off to a tough runner like Kareem Hunt between the tackles, 20-plus times a game. Like, that's at least one area where in the past you wondered if a team was just going to try to punch you in the mouth for 4 quarters, could you answer it? And it feels like the Chiefs are now the team that are taking on that physical style where last year the Raiders got them by coming in and saying we're going to be more physical than you. The Raiders tried to be the more physical team on Sunday. They were playing with emotion, like you said, but the Chiefs were answering the bell and were better.
Yeah, and it's a good point. I think the interior 3 of the offensive line is where that starts, obviously. And I'm not I'm not splitting any atoms there. We all know that, but it's got to be the best interior three in the league, in my opinion, and that's where you're seeing a lot of yards from Hunt. Obviously, is with that, and again, he's not making the big runs, but he's getting positive yards, and you're right. And offensive linemen, they love that. I mean, if you can go after people and get into them a little bit like they have been, then all of a sudden, to a degree, it makes the pass blocking, pass protection a little bit easier, as I remember. So it is interesting, and Patrick Mahomes himself. I mean, who would have thought, that 27 for 38 for 362 and a couple touchdowns. I know he had that interception, but and I don't mean that as a bad thing on him, but to me it wasn't impressive passing by the normal sense, but it's just running around, scrambling, extending plays, and all of a sudden just flipping the ball and just managing things down there. To me, it's just amazing. To me, it's another part of this game that has developed more than we've ever seen in the past.
Yeah, and he said yesterday, the stats would bother him more if they were losing. Not having the stats if you're losing bothers you, but they're winning and doing what they can to win the game. And also, there's so much of this that's football. There's some luck that goes along with it in different parts of the game. And I do think there's some luck factor working against him the last few weeks with his interceptions, the balls that are tipped in the air, caught by a defensive lineman. Wide receiver falls down on a route and the defensive back is right there to intercept it. And, Pro Football Focus looks at turnover-worthy plays. Patrick Mahomes has 9 interceptions this year, but has been graded with 7 turnover-worthy plays. He's got 9 interceptions.
Yeah.
Riddle me that, right?
Exactly right. So the sample size isn't that big, but also the sample size is skewed one way, and so you eventually think that will even itself out a little bit to where when those balls do go up in the air, they don't get intercepted. But either way, the mindset of this team, I think, is as good as it could be at this point. And again, you're playing close games. You're 7-0, but you're not cocky because that those games could have gone either way. And to me, that works in the favor of the Chiefs because there's no way that you can sit there and get too full of yourself.
Visiting with Kendall Gammon, I want to go there now that the Chiefs are 7-0. You played on that 2003 team that started 9-0. As the weeks go along, does that mount the 0 next to your record and that number on the left side of the dash getting bigger and bigger? Does that start to mount to where you start to think about that while also the opponent? What goes on behind the scenes for a team that remains the lone unbeaten team in the NFL?
You know what? I remember that season and getting to 9-0, and it's kind of interesting. We lost to a Bengals team that just wasn't that good. But,
Peter Warwick had 2 different punt return touchdowns.
Exactly, and that's how I made the ESPYs, Jason. Just so you
right.
know, because you can see me in the background chasing them, with 10 other people also. But you know what? I don't remember it being that big a deal to a degree with the players and talking about it or feeling the pressure. But the media naturally starts talking about it. I remember Coach Ramil started talking about it a little bit, and even talked about potentially going undefeated once you got to 9-0, and of course then we go lose. Not on him. I mean, because to me that was a Cincy team that just wasn't that great, but we let it go on special teams. But in general, I think generally the players, they really do just look at things 1 week at a time. And I know it's cliche, but I've said it before on the show. There were so many times, most of my career, where I really didn't even know who we were playing the next week. I never focused on it. It's so much that goes into each week that you really don't have time to focus on that. I mean, you understand what your record is. Probably understand it more when it's bad than when it's good. But either way, you've got to go out there and perform on Sunday.
Yeah, I didn't used to give that a whole lot of weight on players saying, I don't even know who we're playing next week until talking with you. And then a couple of years ago when Travis Kelce was interviewed at the end of a game and said, what do we got, the Chargers this week? And it's like, no, they did not have the Chargers coming up the next week. Exactly. It was like 2 weeks away from playing the Chargers. He was like, I think we got the Chargers maybe coming up this week. I'm not sure. I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess there is a lot of the focus so much on the minutia. It's so much of the micro week by week, and as the season goes along, the macro comes into focus. But each and every time it's that micro. It's 7 straight weeks of finding out who they're playing coming up that week, and then they've got Tampa Bay on Monday night, and then Who knows if they know that they play Denver at home next weekend? I would guess not. Like, I guess there's a lot of guys in that building that don't know that they play Denver next week, nor do they probably care that they play Denver next week because they got the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. Kendall Gammon is our guest, presented by Crown Toyota and Crown Volkswagen. Last night, Kendall, in the Thursday Night Football game, they had a roughing the snapper. Unnecessary roughness, roughing the snapper. Where the hell was that when you played, Kendall?
I know. You know, and it shows on my interviews on here, doesn't it, that it wasn't there. And that's my excuse all the time when I speak, because I've been hit in the head too many times. But, you know, it's interesting, you know, that rule, that only came into effect my last 2 years of my career, and I actually didn't like the rule because I felt like I could hold up better than a lot of people, so it separated me a little bit. But as far as the safety thing goes, you know, it's obviously great, and you know, it is what it is.
It was interesting that you know, the player that did that is a rookie, but wouldn't that be one of the first things? And I imagine that's what it is with the Jets. I don't think the Jets were the ones that weren't offering the coaching, but if you're lining up, you know, right across from the guard on a punt or a field goal, wouldn't the first thing that you're taught is, now you know that you can't go to your right or your left, depending on what side. You can't go to your right and plow right through this guy that's snapping the ball. Just know this. This is the one thing that you know you can't do. I mean, and it's you know, week 9 in the NFL. Like, you would think at that point, but it was, you know, he was crazy like a fox because, you know, they didn't get a field goal on that drive. You know, they missed the field goal. So well done by that guy. In fact, he deserves a raise, I think. You know,
absolutely, and we're going to get on that. We're going to get to the bottom of all of this.
Exactly. You know what? The NFL is rigged. I knew it.
Kendall didn't say that. What the heck?
Yeah, that's right. Kendall Gammon is our guest at Crown Toyota, Crown Volkswagen. Chiefs Monday night, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What do you make of this matchup for the Chiefs? Monday Night Football, chance to go 8-0.
Well, if the Bucs were healthy, I would say it could be a little bit of a game. I'd still pick the Chiefs, but you know, with the wide receivers being out and Godwin and
Evans,
forgot his name. Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see it, and I think the Chiefs are playing well, and I think they're going to get better. And also, I actually think you're going to see Hopkins break out a little bit this week as well. For whatever reason, I just think they're going to get some things going. Monday night football in Kansas City is simply electric. One of the favorite times for me to play football games. They're all great in Arrowhead, but in the evenings and the night, it's pretty special. I just don't think this is a game. There's too much going on, and quite honestly, since those two receivers have gone out, the Bucs have just had a hard time. Now, I love Baker Mayfield as a quarterback. I love his attitude. I love when he was drafted that he wasn't at the draft, that he was at home with people, and he didn't say a lot. I think Cleveland made a big mistake when they let him go. I mean, he was a good player. He was hurt that year, but all the same, I just don't think he has a lot to work with.
They had to improve on Baker Mayfield, and they did. You know, they ended up getting Jameis Winston. No, they didn't. Isn't that funny, though? Jameis was there in Tampa, and Tampa was like, we got to get better. Let's go bring in Baker Mayfield. And Cleveland was like, you know what, we got Baker. We got to get better. We got to do whatever it takes to get Deshaun Watson. And now they're playing Jameis as their quarterback.
He's eating those dubs, right?
You know what? He ate a dub last week. He ate a damn dub last week. That is absolutely for sure. Do you have a score in mind for Monday night, sir?
Yeah, I'm going to go 28-20. No, I'm not. I'm going to go 28-17. And the reason I go that is because the Chiefs have hardly ever beat anybody by more than 7 points, so it makes no sense. So that's where I'm going to go with it.
So you got him winning by 11. That sounds fantastic. Kendall Gammon, he is presented by Crown Toyota, Crown Volkswagen. Kendall, as always, you're the man. Appreciate it, brother. Enjoy the football, and we will talk next week, man.
Sounds good. Take care, Jason.
Absolutely. There's Kendall Gammon. Great stuff from him joining us, talking about this Chiefs team and on that 2003 team that started 9-0. And saying that he doesn't remember really talking about it or it really mounting. He said he does remember Dick Vermeil brought it up like once, but it wasn't a reason why they ended up losing. They just ran up against a team that wasn't all that good but got 2 special teams touchdowns. Chiefs ran up against a team last year on Christmas Day that wasn't good, but they got 2 defensive touchdowns. Yep. And they won that game. Like, it's kind of hard to overcome those things. You know, Kansas State has lived off that, you know, for as long as I can remember. You know, you get a special team score or a defensive score, odds of winning go up. And they do that a lot. So 28-17 he's got. I felt bad for him. 27-13 was his pick last week. And it was 27-13 until 2 minutes to go in the game when they got the garbage time touchdown. Make it 27-20.
Oh, bummer.
Poor guy. I'm like, so what it means is that you got the score wrong. Is exactly what it means.
Yeah, that's what it means.
Yeah, absolutely. Duh.
Should have said 27-20.
Yeah, don't be dumb.
Yeah, you
don't
you gotta
be stupid.
account for that.
Yeah, garbage time, back doors, they all count the same. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling more zone next. Fans Raiders edition. We've got who's lighting it up, and we'll also pick who's going to win the Gold Glove for the Royals this weekend.
What about cuts?
Well, cuts, of course. Yes, we'll have the cuts. Somebody's getting cut. We went as Peaky Blinders yesterday. Somebody's getting cut. Nobody got cut yesterday, and we were Peaky Blinders, so there needs to be some cuts today.
I did put a razor blade in my hat.
Yeah,
Very painful.
My son went as Peaky Blinders with me. I put the razor blades in his hat, just in case somebody wanted to steal his candy. He was ready to go. He was ready. But no, we'll have the cuts as well. But the Gold Gloves, I believe it's on ESPN on Sunday night, 7:30 is when it'll be announced live. So we'll see if the Royals get 3, 2, 1, at least. Mick Schaefer joining us here in the zone for the final hour of the show. We got cuts before the show is over. We'll see who's lighting it up. We'll see how many Gold Gloves the Royals can win on Sunday. 1, 2, 3, or 4 Gold Gloves.
Well, technically not 4 because
Well, I guess it would be 3. Yeah,
three most,
Ooh, they
yeah.
could split it.
They could.
you both get half a glove.
You get the thumb and the index finger.
Who gets
and
the
Cole,
webbing?
You get the webbing and the
Yeah.
middle finger ring.
You're right.
and
They
pinky.
can't win 4. But what if they did, though? Right? That would be a new record. What if they tied? You would give them both. It's like 2 gold medals at the Olympics.
Do they do that? Do they split the Gold Glove ever?
I don't know. It's a great question.
I don't
Really good
care
question.
enough to pay attention.
No, and I
nor to
don't
look it up.
care. And since Mick doesn't care, we'll let you know Sunday night at 7:30 is when that broadcast starts. I also would, we were talking in the break. This is a total random aside, but part of the ESPN media release was that they're going to have winners of the Gold Gloves on the show. So would you let the guys know beforehand, like that day, like, hey, you've won, so be ready? Or just be around your phone just in case?
No. It's going to be more than a phone zoomer, right?
That's
Wouldn't
what
it
I
be?
would think. Like,
it's
you would
going to
be
be like a satellite setup,
Right.
right? Yeah, they're
That's
going to
what I would
let.
guess. Like,
yeah,
it's a big-
they'll
it's
let
a
the
major
guys.
award.
They'll let the guys know. Absolutely,
It's a major award.
I don't think it's going to be like NCAA tournament, right? Where they'll go to like 6 places. 3 will be teams that are going to make it. 3 won't.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
don't let them know. Or they were right
Yeah.
there with Florida State last year for the college football playoff.
Right. Oh,
that wasn't.
Had a reporter there in the room and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. I think it would be random if you're like, hey, all 50 of you.
Yeah, because
you
they're
need
not
to
going
be standing by just in
a lot
case.
of these guys are going to be on vacation. They're not going to be reliable.
Well, I mean,
and be around their phone.
it's a pretty big deal.
It's a major award.
You could just tell them to just sit around your phone for 20 minutes.
It is not that big of a deal for those guys. No way. They're not going to tell all the contestants to sit around their phone for 20 minutes. No chance. They're going to know.
They'll probably
Stop
let-
looking at me like that.
Yeah,
I just spit logic.
I think they'll let
what would Cal Raleigh be up to that's more important than this?
Cancun,
Raleigh. Freddie
California.
California,
Yeah,
Raleigh.
Raleigh.
That's what he's named. The state was named after him.
Yeah.
Freddie Freeman could be to Freddie's.
Could be.
Good. Yep, Freddie Freeman and Freddie Fermin.
Fermin, yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
both of them could do that. So
Was
that comes up.
Freddie Freeman up for one too?
Let me find out for you. He
Clutchest
is not.
dude ever.
He is not. Bryce Harper, Matt Olson,
Matt Olson,
the guy
yeah.
the Braves got because they didn't want Freddie Freeman. They didn't want to pay Freddie Freeman, so they went and traded for Matt Olson and paid him.
It's kind of worked out for
And
both teams, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, but I'd rather have Freddie. But Matt Olson's fine. I'd rather have Freddie.
Oh, yeah, especially in the
Freeman.
playoffs. That's what a star baseball player is supposed to do in the biggest baseball games of his life.
Yeah.
Unlike
Not drop the
other
ball
guys.
in center field.
Not drop the ball in center field. That's one. Not go 3 for 25, or I don't know what it ended up being.
Well, Anthony Volpe. What's really interesting about the shortstop part, because postseason doesn't matter. Okay, we know that. But Anthony Volpe with the throwing error that helped that 5th inning happen, and Brian Rocchio for the Guardians that had multiple errors against the Yankees, which led to runs and
Both are up.
losses. And Bobby Witt. Those are the 3 guys up for the shortstop Gold Glove. But I know postseason doesn't matter because the votes are already in or whatever, because the top 3, that's who the finalists are.
They
But-
voted before the postseason?
Yeah, so the finalists are the finalists. The top 3 vote getters are the ones that are the finalists. And so then Rocchio and Volpe have had some pretty decent blunders in the postseason defensively.
Bobby played a great defensive
Bobby was awesome.
position, played a great shortstop
Bobby,
in the postseason.
Bobby was great. The one thing he was criticized for was his at bats.
Yeah.
And
he only had 2 game-winning RBIs.
I know, right? Out of the 6 games that they
games.
played. So I mean, maybe next time have 6 game-winning RBIs. That would be smarter. That would be better. Maybe next time don't hit a ball 114 miles an hour right at the left fielder. Okay, hit it 112 like Stanton
And
at
what?
the gap.
And actually, in games 5 and 6 of the postseason, he hit just fine. Was fine. It was just like
Yes.
2 games in the middle that just got amplified.
Yes, I mean again,
and he still hit the ball hard a couple at bats.
Yeah. Well, on Thursday he hit one 114 right at the left fielder.
Yes.
It's like, what are you going to do? Giancarlo hit one 111 in the gap. It's like Bobby hit it harder, hit it more on the screws.
It's not his fault.
It's not your fault. And they can.
And he retired.
And will he be done calling baseball games? Can he or can he retire? And he can.
You have to think that
You have to think here
if Judge comes through, the narrative would flip. It would change the narrative. This is a big moment. Okay, another strikeout. 30 minutes, though, I'm going to have the same speech.
You have to feel bad for a guy like Judge right now. Not his fault. Not his fault. Not his fault. He did until the center field blunder. He was playing great baseball. Had the great catch on Freeman and Lynn left center, and had the home run. And what's that, Dylan?
Yes, they can.
Yes, they can.
Yes, they can.
And it's not Giancarlo's fault.
Yes, they can, and it's just the point we were making. It's not Giancarlo's fault.
Did he ever say whose fault that was?
It's
Aaron Boone's
the
or
injury's fault.
God's fault.
God's fault.
The weight room.
Weight room's fault.
Weight room's fault.
It was actually the shortstop. They shouldn't have made that play.
Mhm.
It's not his fault. It's the shortstop for being good.
It's the injuries. It's not his fault he's injured.
That's right.
It has nothing to do with him. You know what? I'm not pulling a muscle because I don't have them. Giancarlo's pulling muscles. You know what? He has muscles. So I'm nobody's on the IL with a fat strain. He's strained his fat.
When he came through and basically won, game 3?
3 and 4.
For the Yankees, was that his fault?
Or game 4
was
and
that
5.
Was that him doing that?
Yeah.
No, they didn't play 5.
Yeah, they
played
gave
3 and 4.
3 and 4. Yeah, 3 and 4. Yeah, games 3 and 4.
Or was that somebody else doing that too?
It was also the injuries.
Okay.
Injuries' fault. Thank you, Mike Gundy. Fat! 90% of this is inaccurate. All right. All right, let's hear from sad fans. Shall we do some sad fans here?
Thank you.
Let's hear sad fans.
Which
the
ones?
Raiders edition.
Oh, this should be.
You know what? I probably
Chef's kiss, right?
I should have done Yankees edition. I should have done sad
Put 'em
fans
together,
Yankees.
maybe, yeah.
That would have been great. Maybe another time. But sad fans, Las Vegas Raiders. Here we go. And now things Raiders fans said on Reddit. Dude, it's all red. I mean, is there any black in that building? Reply, yes, when Chiefs fans leave their seats. Kermit's hairstyle is for teenaged punk rich kids. Reply, dude, we have Mark Davis. He looks like Mo of the Three Stooges.
Oh,
can't really make fun of somebody's
Allegiant
hair.
Stadium looks like a damn home game for the Chiefs. This is unacceptable. Reply, well, Chiefs fans would show up in Oakland too. Reply, yes, but there they'd at least worry if they left alive.
That is true.
I bet our offense would be more efficient if we just had Madden's coach suggestions the entire game. Did you see the ill intent we kicked that field goal with? A lot of violence in that kick. Luke Getsy impresses me with how he keeps coming up with new ways to be total ass.
He's the offensive coordinator.
Yeah. I guess the plan is to give Mahomes the ball back to get a last-minute score here? Pretty brilliant. That's exactly what they're not expecting us to do. Good team. Our tight end is a mismatch. Let's keep feeding him the ball. Bad team. Our tight end is a mismatch. Let's run dive plays up the middle. Reply, it's like we're playing 5D interdimensional Chinese checkers. National Tight End Day and the Raiders forgot to use their tight end. I guess it's too much to ask for him to take his head out of his ass after the scripted plays.
They like the OC.
Ill intent, violence, physicality, pain. My liver is going to experience all of these things. Luke Getsy is like the kid who always does rock first and rock, paper, scissors, and then wonders why he always loses. They should put a guy on that number 87. He seems good. Reply, I don't know. I'm going to need to see a third quarter of him making every reception before I'll commit to that. Can we at least put Ritter in the game? I'm sure he knows the playbook. It's only 3 plays. Run, screen pass, fumble. I'm starting to think Brock Bowers is a Ferrari in a trailer park.
He is.
I bet when he leaves the stadium, Luke Getsy drives the speed limit in the fast lane. Why is my fork moving towards the plug outlet? The Chiefs will look back at this game as the one that catapulted the Raiders into getting their quarterback of the future and starting a dynasty. They will rue this day.
I don't think so.
Luke Getsy takes pictures of his shits and keeps them on his phone to admire later. Reply,
That's actually how he designs his plays. I'd rather Aiden be in there throwing with his non-broken hand. Well, that was disappointing, but I refuse to let this team ruin the rest of my day. It's my day. I'll ruin it myself. And now, the runner-up to things Raiders fans said on Reddit. We all know Luke Getsy says gracias to Italian waiters. And now, the winner of things Raiders fans said on Reddit. The Raiders are treating Travis Kelce like a guy in a threesome. Nobody's even looking at him.
That may be the best one with the Raiders fan. That might
that
be
was so good.
There was a couple
Those
good
last
dismounts
two,
there.
Really good.
Gracias to Italian waiters. Grazie.
Gracias.
Gracias. They love Luke Getsy in Vegas. Raider Nation really likes their offensive coordinator.
Oh, my gosh.
It was so...
Do you know who he's the OC of last year?
I don't.
The Bears. So that tells you why.
There we go. Yeah. That's
noted great offense, the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it was like, because there were a number of them. I guess he was friends with Devontae Adams or something.
Nice.
Adams. So there was a number of them like, yeah, Adams isn't here anymore. So can he leave too? We no longer have to keep him around for Devontae Adams. He's gone. Please get him out.
I love the teams that have just signed their friends have all been really bad. Like, that's what the Raiders did because they had Derek Carr. Let's bring in Adams, and then they signed their guys, and then the Jets let's sign all of Aaron Rodgers' friends, and
also including Devontae Adams.
Also, he's friendly dude.
He is
friends with lots of people.
He's a
friendly
great
guy
to be around, man. I mean, he did move right next door in Vegas to Derek Carr. You know, when they traded for him, those guys are really, really good friends, man. All right, there you go. There's sad fans, Raiders. Speaking of good friends, this is kind of an odd little quirk.
Us.
In the game on Monday night, there will be 4 of the 11 positions for the 2015 or 16 Oklahoma Sooners offense.
So we like the Knicks with the Villanova Wildcats, right?
So at one point in time...
Okay, let me find them.
So at one point in time, all of these guys sort of crossed
how many
together.
4?
For which team?
For both.
Okay,
for
so
Oklahoma offense.
You have Baker.
Creed.
I don't think Wanye was there yet, was he? Wanye not there. Is there a receiver for the Bucks?
Yep.
Yeah, what's his name?
Sterling Shepard.
Sterling Shepard.
Oh gosh. Mark Andrews was on that team. Was obviously not going to be in this game. Chiefs or Bucks here?
Chiefs.
Winchester was with the Chiefs already.
Nope.
P. Ryan.
Wide receiver.
Oh, not P. Ryan?
Oh, no, I don't think he was on that. Let me look. It was the Chiefs game book that had it, but it was a wide receiver also.
Well, not DeAndre Hopkins.
Nope.
Do they have to be active, you said?
Oh, he's still on the team. He just ain't playing. Hadn't played all year.
Hollywood Brown.
Hollywood.
That didn't
count.
That's
yeah.
No,
you
give me
said
a
playing in
break.
the game.
My bad. Did I say playing? My bad.
You said
That's
playing.
my fault. That's my fault. That's my fault. That's my fault.
Yeah, it is.
That's my fault. I'll take it. All right, that's my fault.
When was P. Ryan there? I want to say
I
he
need
was
to look
kind of
it
in that
up.
wheelhouse.
I'm not saying that the game notes would be wrong.
He's implying it though.
I'm just saying that
Oklahoma He got drafted in 2017.
Yeah, so he would've been there.
So he would won.
There,
So he's your fourth.
He's
14 to
like I said,
16.
it's P. Ryan. the 4 that are playing in it, you jackasses. That's what I said.
That's still one of the greatest college games I've ever watched that didn't involve my own team. Was Texas Tech, Oklahoma.
God,
was that
amazing.
15?
I think it was 15.
15 or 16.
Oh, my God, that was amazing. He and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. I think it's 16 maybe.
Was that the game? It went to
It was like 50 to 50 or something.
Yeah,
like
but
that.
it went to like 4 overtimes.
They didn't.
Was that the LSU?
They didn't do
one?
overtime. That one.
There was one. It was in November. I was like, I thought it was LSU. Maybe
Yes,
I could be wrong.
LSU and was it God?
A&M
Is A&M? I was going to say kind of a maroon color.
Yeah.
They went to like 4 or 5 overtimes.
Yeah,
that was a great one.
It was like 65 to 70 or something like that. It was insane. Yeah.
This one was like combined 1,300 yards of offense or something like that. I think like combined, Mahomes or Mayfield had like 700 yards. Both of them were close to like. Because they were running the ball, too.
Yeah, it wasn't Hollywood, so you guys are actually right. It was P. Ryan. It was P. Ryan, Creed, Sterling, and Baker. are the 4 that were on that 2015 team.
Yeah, it was 66-59.
I remember where I was.
October 22nd.
I was in the bar in Caldwell, Kansas, watching that game, and it was a lot of fun.
Mahomes threw for 734 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He also
ran for how much did he run for?
85 yards and 2 touchdowns.
800 yards by himself.
Baker Mayfield was 27 of 36 for 545 yards and 7 touchdowns. Joe Mixon, 31 carries, 263 and 2 touchdowns. Mahomes, anyone want to take a guess on how many times he threw the ball?
65.
I was going to say like 60 plus, 64, 65, 60.
You guys aren't even close.
80.
88.
Oh, God.
That was
88.
God, that was a blast. That game was just
so many pros in this game, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mixon, Dede Westbrook-Akina, Baker Mayfield.
Everybody on that OU team.
Joe Mixon, obviously Mahomes. Austin Siebert, the kicker.
Was there anybody for Tech outside of Mahomes?
Let me see.
I he had a couple wide receivers, right? That at least got drafted.
That little dude.
Kiki Katu, I forget his last name. He played for the Houston Texans, I believe, actually.
Cutie, I think is how you say it.
Cutie?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Could be.
I think
I'm trying to think.
There was another
he was
guy
the little dude. They ran a.
I don't have any defense on here.
They used to run a play.
Nobody on defense in the NFL.
Somehow no tackles.
Tech used to run a play with him where they would hide him behind like the lineman and they'd do almost like a fumble rooski and he'd pick it up and run. The name of the play was called Little People Big World. It was so good. It's my favorite plays ever.
Oklahoma, Dede Westbrook-Akina, Joe Mixon, Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
Let's even go to that Tech team.
And that offensive line. I mean, Creed Humphrey, the best center in football, was on that offensive line.
He might have been like a freshman.
Yeah, I guess he might have.
I don't know if he's playing yet.
He's good enough, though. He probably played his true freshman year. Todd would know. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. We'll see who's lighting it up. Coming up on the other side of the break, we'll pick 1 through 4 different, or 0. 4 different players for the Royals up for the Gold Glove. We'll pick who we think is going to win the Gold Glove. We'll do that before the show is over. And, of course, the cuts before we get out of here. More Zone next.
field goals in the game. One was a 23-yarder, one was a 37-yarder. Between the 16 extra points.
Hold on.
I ain't going
One was
in
missed.
that game. I ain't going for a 23-yarder in
That's
that
what
game.
I was like. There was you scored 59. You kicked a 23-yard.
Oklahoma did a 66-point score.
You were at the 6? The
was
5?
23-yarder.
I'm going for it on fourth down there.
Is there a way to look up what was
Fourth and goal from the 5, and
when
you said
did the
no.
field goal happen?
These 3 points are going to matter.
It happened in the second quarter. It was 20-17 at the time.
Oh well.
And to go up 6 points.
In the
Oklahoma.
second quarter was 20-17, and it ended up being
halftime was 30-24.
Okay,
Second half did a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah, clearly.
That fourth quarter was electric.
Yeah. All right, who's lighting it up for me? This is an easy one. Freddie Freeman. I mean, Tim Kirkchin said it was one of, if not the most impressive World Series performances in the history of the game. What Freddie Freeman did in having 12 RBIs in 5 games, having the walk-off grand slam, homering in 4 of the 5 World Series games, including could have been 5 for 5 with the drive to left field if he didn't hit it in the only place in Yankee Stadium that isn't a child's ballpark, 399 to left center, and didn't get it out there. But also 6 straight World Series games in which he homered in, going back to 2 that he had with the Braves, and being MVP and being the only man born in the last 50 years to be a World Series and also regular season MVP. So, yeah. I mean, if Tim Kirkchin tells me something historical and there's precedent to it, I'm going to listen. And he said it was one of, if not the very most impressive performances in World Series history.
And I thought Freddie Freeman peaked after playing Kevin's older brother in Home Alone.
Oh, yeah. It's Buzz.
Yes, Buzz. But no, he's
some people have
somehow
also
taken
said
it to another level.
Matt Dillon in Something About Mary.
Yeah.
It's there. So, but come on, nice guy, great guy. Mick, who's lighting it up for you?
Garrett Wilson. That was a heck of a catch.
Oh my God,
right?
Unreal.
They said what the New York Times or one of the tabloids today, it said like catch it like Beckham or something like that, bend it like Beckham, whatever. And it was a very OBJ type catch there, and he got it down, and they beat the Texans. There are no contenders. There are no other AFC contenders other than the Chiefs.
No, not
That's
at all.
it. Nobody else.
The number 1 seed on November 17th could be wrapped up for the Chiefs if they go to Buffalo and win. The number 1 seed on November 17th could be done.
And you're saying that, I'm assuming. And the Chiefs could still lose 2 games.
Right. If the Chiefs beat Buffalo, they can go. I think right now, because of Houston's loss, I think the Chiefs can go 7-3 in these last 10 games,
And
even
still
losing
be
to
the 1
Buffalo.
seed. Absolutely.
Even if they lost it, because
Exactly.
Buffalo would have to
7-3.
Buffalo
I
could only
agree.
lose 1 game the rest of the way and beat the Chiefs. If the Chiefs just go 7-3 the rest of the way, and they've already got Carolina and Vegas still to go, so they'd have to go 5-3 in those other games. Devontae Adams after the game said, I know he's with Adidas, but after that he's going to have to come over with me to Jumpman. So it's like I'm going to have to put him in contact with some people because they paused it and it looked like a Jumpman. It looked like exactly like the Jumpman. So you disagree with Sterling in that you think it was a catch?
Well, of course it was a catch.
Yeah, Sterling said the shin wasn't down before the knee because he doesn't have eyes.
No, the shin was down. The shin equals a knee. And a knee equals 2 feet.
But he said the shin was not down before the knee.
It's silly rule. I think it should have been a catch because I think it
Well,
actually
do
got
you
2
know
feet down.
he did because he got the first one. But they've
feet.
called that no. Well, didn't it happen like
On
the
Monday.
week before? Yeah.
On Monday. Last 2 games, I've never seen it before, and now back-to-back
Twice.
games in the NFL.
That's my point. Is like
it's happened.
It's just inconsistent. George Pickens has to be kicking air right now. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know with
the shin
with just
equals
1
2
foot
feet.
though.
just kicking air with 1 foot.
Shin
I
equals
don't know
2 feet,
how the right foot twice does not equal 2 feet.
So
Give me
dumb.
a break.
A shin is greater than the same foot
Yeah.
twice.
Des got it.
They need
1 shin.
They need to align all the rules of the 3 levels of football. By the way, because I go to high school games, they're like, "It's uncatchable." I'm like, "It's not a high school rule." He's like, "He's got to turn his head." No, it's not, a high school rule.
Not a college rule either.
And honestly,
it's illegal contact downfield. Not a college rule.
Yeah,
It's
and
no illegal
a
contact.
lot of the targeting stuff you see on Saturdays and Sundays, that's not part of the Friday night game. You can get away with a lot bigger hits.
Interesting.
Like
Now I know.
you can like crown the helmet into like a tackling a quarterback there. That's not a flag. That's not it. I mean, targeting still is and all that, but you're not ejected like you are in college. It's a 15-yard penalty.
That's how it should be in college too.
Yeah.
It's a 15-yard penalty. Dylan, who's lighting it up for you?
So the Dodgers are having their World Series parade today, and who is lighting it up for me is Los Angeles traffic because it stops for nobody, and all the buses right now are deadlocked in gridlock right now during the Dodgers
Most
World
of that town
Series
doesn't even
parade.
know they won.
Yeah, I know. That's what they didn't have a parade in 2020.
Right.
And now they get to have a parade, and it's
Gridlock traffic, and they are stuck
They
in it
got
right
the
now.
beach. They got rollerblading on the sidewalk. They got
Yeah.
surfing. They got food trucks. They got
Well,
other
why,
stuff.
why would you care about a World Series when you can
Sports.
rollerblade on the sidewalk?
You just rollerblade on the sidewalk with your headphones
With
on.
your headphones on.
anytime.
I mean, why-
watched-
or you go to Gold's Gym on the
Right.
beach, right? Lift.
I watched
Get a
Rosie
lift in.
Perez
what
do
if,
it.
what if it rains? Those things would be rusty.
It never rains in Southern California.
Well,
Yeah,
is
it's
it
the
gold?
Same weather every day.
It's honestly, people say like, "How lovely would that be?" I'm like, that sounds depressing. That just sounds like the days just go on and on and on. Sorry, I liked a little change in my life.
Yeah, you just got married.
I could
so-
probably deal with San Diego weather every day of my
I
life.
wouldn't hate it. You know, I
It's a little too cold for me too. It's never quite warm enough. It's like
The one bad thing, it brings all people to the yard, and there's a lot of sketchy people in Southern California.
yeah, I'm team. No.
Yeah, my
living
brother
I
lived
don't
there.
live
I'm like, okay, there's a lot. What are we doing here?
No,
with some of these
I'm
people?
good not living there.
Yeah.
But the weather wouldn't
Yeah.
be something.
Bring
I
the
would
weather
complain
here,
about.
Yeah, it's a little too cold though. I need.
Okay,
I
great.
can't go
Good
to the
for you.
pool.
Good for you.
You couldn't wear that shirt there. You can pull, yeah, it'd be too much. It'd be too much. It'd be
All
too
right,
heavy.
0, 1, 2, or 3. How many Gold Gloves do the Royals get?
I'll say one.
You can say one.
I'll say Junior.
Mick, Bobby.
Well, for the bet with
How
Lebo,
many-
I need 3.
how
but
many
I'll
are
go,
up for a
I'll-
pitcher?
I'll go
No, you need
2.
at least 2. You don't need 3. You just need for me.
I technically only need 1. But
Yeah, you just need 1. That's
How
right. You
many,
just need
how many pitchers are up?
2. Well, 3 pitchers, but it's
Total?
Reagan's and Lugo.
It's 2 of the 3, right?
Yep, Reagan's, Lugo, and Griffin. Canning.
I'll go 2. I'll go 2.
You're gonna go
I'll
2?
just roll the dice there, the odds at pitcher, and I
pitcher.
think Bobby's gonna win.
yeah, so I think pitcher's the one that you should go for because you have great odds there. So I'll
Yes.
go 1 pitcher. I'll go Bobby. And for
I don't
my
think
bet,
Fermin,
no,
has a
I know he's not
chance.
going to
I'm
win.
surprised he's nominated.
I don't think he's going to win, but I have 10-1 odds with Lebo on coffees, and I'm going to take the 10-1 odds. So I
Sure.
guess for this, I
10 to
just
1
take
odds
3.
on a 33% chance of winning. I mean, that seems pretty good.
Seems like a good bet for me.
Yeah. So you've got Bobby, Fermin, and which pitcher?
I'll go Lugo.
Lugo. I'm going Lugo as well. Who you got for pitcher?
Lugo, just
Lugo.
because I don't think they're not
You're
going to win.
copying us.
That's it. He's not going to win. He's going to be second Cy Young. We're
I
like,
haven't gone
let's
yet.
throw him the Gold Glove. All those, there's different people that vote on
Dylan,
that.
who you got?
Now, my job's to copy Mick
Yep.
here, and I'm going to go with Lugo and Bobby.
Bobby and Lugo. Okay. I went Bobby and Lugo as well. All right. So there we go. Sterling has Bobby, Lugo, and Fermin.
One for me, I don't think wins, but
I'm surprised. How many games did he start? I mean,
Yeah,
is there a
it wasn't
threshold?
very
You have
high.
to-
His caught stealing percentage was ridiculous.
It's great,
I mean,
but
he was
lower.
throwing
I
everybody
didn't know
out.
if he got to the minimum number of steal attempts or
Yeah, I
starts
know.
or whatever.
Let me
But
look at
I'm
the,
happy
he was
for
just
him.
So good. He was just so good. He was throwing everybody out, man.
He played in 111 games total, which is also
I
not
mean, a
all
lot
like
of
catcher.
a-
He played.
a lot
He
of
caught
those-
91
I was
games.
going to say a lot of those were catcher.
Yeah, he caught 91 games.
More than half the season.
He caught more than Salvi.
Yeah.
If he caught 91, that doesn't leave.
Doesn't leave. Yes,
just
Even
simple
with the
math
playoffs.
here.
Well, oddly enough,
71.
Salvi caught 92. That's weird. All right.
Well, I guess it's possible
Ran
because
that 2-catcher formation.
Time out.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, no.
Sub a guy in, sure.
Technically, it is possible if you come in.
Yeah.
It'd
for
be
a
game
pin-
starts
for a
versus
pinch.
games.
Yeah, for games started versus games because actually Freddie Fermin only started 72 games.
Oh, okay.
So
But played
Salvi started 90 games, right?
Okay.
Isn't that how the math would break down? That's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah. Butera didn't start any this year, right?
Eric Kratz did though.
McFarland did not have a game this year, right? Brent Maine, did
John
he play?
Buck.
Jumbo.
Miguel Olivo.
Olivo. I think he did get one.
Benito Santiago did though.
Santiago got one. along
Benito
with,
Santiago.
Didn't Juan Gonzalez play right field in that game that Santiago
I don't
started
think
that
he
night?
ever played a game. He was a Royal, but I don't think he ever played a game.
Cam Gallagher.
There it is. It's Cam Gallagher. That's the name. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and we're going to cut it up on the other side of the break. More Zone next. American Royal World Series of Barbecue at Kansas Speedway, one of Kansas City's premier events and the largest barbecue contest in the world. And special thanks to our great partners for supporting Pork Radio 810, including Parisi Coffee, AmeriLife Benefits, Greenlight Dispensary, Boulevard Brewing Company, Window Nation, Liberty Fruits, Office Products Alliance, Downtown Marriott, which will be on Monday, Toner Jewelers, Kansas City Ice, and Hen House. Sports Radio 810 WHB, your hometown station and official sponsor of the American Royal Barbecue. Pork Radio 810 tonight out at Kansas Speedway. Hey, should we get the cuts before the show is over? Let's do that. Let's go ahead and get the cuts. Dylan, take it away, brother. The stage is yours.
The Howlerhead Banana Bourbon, official flavored whiskey of the UFC. Did you know that?
I did.
You know, there's something about a banana bourbon that makes me want to punch somebody right in the face.
Agreed.
Okay, same.
Yeah.
I know nothing.
I know nothing.
I know nothing.
Cut his mic. I'm done listening.
Every
to him.
single game I'm in.
Cut his mic. Yeah, we're done with him. We're done with him. We're done.
Should the
wow!
oh,
Come
hit
on,
it,
guys.
Hit it. Now see,
come on.
See, that's the line.
Why are you gonna do that?
That's the line.
Why are you gonna do that?
Don't cut my mic.
Right here on Sports Radio 810.
It is right.
WHB.
You got a
home of all the stuff.
Everything that's bleeping
that's-
great. That's really
Lebo?
cool.
Yeah.
Home of everything that's really cool. And we
Home
get
of all the swell things.
and one of the worst things to eat on radio, because
well, I thought I had time. I had nuts in my mouth. Peanuts. I was eating peanuts.
Oh, sure.
Right.
So you talking to a guy who got 3 Super Bowls. I mean, we win another Super Bowl. Middle fingers up to DPOY, okay?
DPOY. Listen, I want that fact. Listen. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go fact.
I'll go fact.
Sure.
Yeah,
We're playing sure or maybe not.
Sure or
maybe not.
I like Lebo.
Good.
Show up to Kirchhoff's house at about 8:55.
Yeah,
Is what
there you
you're saying.
That's what I'm
You're
gonna
gonna
do.
get a pillowcase
If
full.
you see a really large trick-or-treater tonight,
Yeah. What is a
with a deep voice,
50-pound trick-or-treater here? What the hell is this?
or I'm a pirate. Okay. Hey, Blair.
Hey, Blair. Blair gives out full-size candy bars at his house.
Wow.
That's what they were saying.
Hey,
That's
I
why
did
Curtis-
last night.
That's why
Only had
Curtis-
3 trick-or-treaters. They were very happy.
Okay.
They didn't go and spread the word?
I gave them all. I just was
dude,
like, here, just kept having
around
like,
our neighborhood, there was
How many
people
full candy bars did you have?
I had, I don't know, like 50-something.
You gave 50-something to 3 of them?
You know, I gave probably 35, so I kept a couple Twix for myself. But
These kids got there and got like double-digit full candy bars?
A lot of them did, yeah. The last 2 for
we
sure.
we had kids running recon as to where the full-size candy bars were.
Didn't have
Are
many
you
kids,
kidding
I
me?
guess, and I was bummed. I was so excited.
Yeah, I bet you were.
Yeah, I think by Monday night's game, if he can do this quickly in 2 days, basically of preparation, then I think you can expect something close to a full load.
Come on.
Just keep going.
Come
That's
on.
not what he was talking about, dude.
on.
Not
Workload.
good.
No.
Like decidedly ungood.
That's right. Cynthia Freeland talking about the Houston Texans offensive line. This was Wednesday before last
Decidedly
night.
ungood.
Decidedly ungood.
Not good.
No.
Like decidedly ungood.
No.
I love it.
Decided. Not good.
Decidedly ungood is
Whatever
one of my
she
new-
says goes.
My new favorite sayings.
Mike went to crack at those 2 Yankee fans. I think.
Ooh, man, I would love to. I can't believe
got
that
your back.
I can't
Listen.
believe that his right hand did not come up and pop somebody.
I'm telling you, you put
I
Tommy,
would have.
put Tommy Pham out there.
Man, my right hand, when he grabbed my arm, my right hand would have crossed his jaw so fast.
Boddicker would have punched somebody. Mookie Betts.
I don't know if Betts could have got up that high with it. I mean, he was. I mean,
You're trying to say short? Like
no, the
I
wall
know.
was
I
tall.
know.
Wall was tall.
No, it was a reach, but yeah, Boddicker would have found a way to punch
Yes.
somebody. Sure, Tommy Pham would have pulled the guy down into the field of play. Try
Small
Dylan.
dome,
Dylan,
yeah.
you got a large, extra large over there? Yeah. Dylan's
Oh,
dome
yeah.
is pretty sizable. He's
Yeah.
he's Barry Bonds over
Yeah, I
there.
was gonna say it is Barry Bonds.
That was
It's
a
not
little
even-
snug on me.
After you get past 7 3/4.
My
Yeah, that's what she said.
Oh, nice.
Who was the guy who caught the tip? He was supposed to be back with his body on Noah Brown. He was the back guy on the tip. He was the back guy to cover the tip.
Are you kidding me? We're talking about the Hail Mary, guys.
Gotta have a fall guy.
Where is your head?
Gotta have a bat guy.
Bat guy. Yeah.
Well, they're going to bring
Like
the
wrestling?
D. They're bringing the D, they said.
Where's our harmonizing? Where's our singing? Remember that?
There it is, right there. We just played it. Go on. We done, Dylan? You good? No? Okay.
D-Hop, the Red Mamba. I think it's fitting. His favorite player was Kobe Bryant. Let's call him the Red Mamba. Unless it sounds stupid, and then forget me. Okay, thank you, guys.
I looked it up. Matt Bonner is the Red Mamba.
Yeah, close. D-Hop couldn't be that, obviously, because of Matt Bonner.
It was a heck of a threesome.
It was.
Bill Moss. But go ahead.
Yeah.
I hit it 3 times.
What?
I just keep going. We can't end on that.
Bounce He back kinda twice. came from the side.
Oh my God!
Behind.
Oh my God! We can't end on that. What's next? We can't end on that one.
Cam Robinson is a big deal for me, but
What's his booty like, Cam Robinson?
it's massive. It's
Yeah.
a massive boot.
See, Cynthia Freeland did her senior thesis
I know.
on the booty size of
So
offensive
great.
linemen, and Cam Robinson has a massive booty. We'll end on that one.
Okay.
Cam Robinson got a big butt, and Cynthia cannot lie.
She cannot.
So she's not
I'm just
Whatever
glad
she says goes.
I wasn't on there too much this time.
You're on there enough.
Too much.
Probably too much.